So we shall begin our video for today. And this is EmpLemon on the dirtiest driver in NASCAR history.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another iconic moment in NASCAR history. Now, ordinarily, I would just
Okay, so GameStop. I'm sorry, guys. I have to just do this because I'm looking at the old sponsors. I remember, I believe that's Castrol at the end there. I know it's GameStop. We get Monster Energy, that's obvious. And Undercard. Okay. Oh, man. It's always funny seeing the NASCAR evolution of the sponsorship cars over the years. I know, sponsor this, sponsor that. Europeans will look at our motorsports and go, oh, you're covering to sponsor this, but all their cars covered in sponsorships. If you want to see levels of NASCAR sponsorship, but not inside motorsports, go look at the European hockey scene, and you'll see their jerseys are just littered in advertisements. You can even just figure out what team they are most of the time, because they're just covered in advertisements.
Explain what's about to happen on screen here, but today we're gonna try something a little different. What you're watching is the final lap of the 2012 Nationwide Series race at Daytona.
Was this the one that had like a 3-time delay because of weather? Or was that 2011 or 2013 I'm thinking of? Because I remember I was in Florida, not to see the Daytona. I was nowhere near to see the Daytona. I was actually with family down in Florida on vacation, and I kept hearing over that homeboy is streaming. Yes, yes. How are you doing, Razgriz? Hello, my favorite white trash honky. How you doing? But I was down in Florida during this time with a family, and some family friends were trying to go see the Daytona 500, I believe. And there was like a 3-time like rain and weather delay because of just the sheer amount of downpour there was.
Another flawless victory for Hyperborean space stoners.
Yapping Queen 94 has been welcome to Agartha. I have no idea who that is, and I am scared to find out. Welcome. Welcome.
If you haven't seen...
But yeah, I wonder if this is the race that was doing it. Okay.
Another flawless victory for Hyperborean space stoners.
Arnold Winkler has subscribed now. That's interesting. I don't know why I'm getting all the subscriptions right now. Unless this is a delay that's been going on. Yeah, I'm back. God damn it.
Flawless victory for Hyperborean space
Awesome
stoners.
Soccer Pink, thank you for the subscription. As you can tell, I'm still plugged up. I have a lower lung infection. I'm sorry if I'll be hacking and coughing this stream. I'm still coming off it after 4 fucking weeks.
Another flawless victory for Hyperborean space
Red
stoners.
406. Jesus Christ. What the hell is going on here? Okay, I got to hold, make sure we're all in the clear, because I don't know why I'm getting all these subscriptions coming in right now. But, yeah, I'm starting to think this is the delay. This was the rain delay that happened.
this before, I'd like you to try and predict which of these drivers ends up winning. To make things easier, let's take a look at some...
Oh my god. I'm sorry. I know we're going at over 200 miles per hour with these cars. Look at the stands. Look at the stands.
Of these drivers
This is an institution. This used to be an institution. And now look at the fucking stands.
ends up winning. To make things easier, let's...
You know how painful this is? You know how painful this is to watch? These empty stands? On the main stretch? So this isn't your normal voice. Raz, I don't think you've heard me with my normal voice, because all the time we've talked to each other, my sinuses have been completely plugged up. Like, I'd have less of a nasally voice if I didn't have plugged sinuses right now. I also have that lower lung infection that has been filling my throat with mucus. It's not been fun.
Let's take a look at some of our challengers. Leading the field is the 2004 Cup Series champion Kurt Busch, with no one in...
Ain't nobody there. Exactly. It's horrible. It's horrible. Fucking hell. Even when I went to Monster Jam events around this time, it was more packed in terms of per capita of the stadium. The percentile of the stadium that was just packed, it was more packed. And that's in Canada. That's a Canadian Monster Jam event. How the fuck is the biggest race of NASCAR this sparsely packed? This is horrible.
In front of him, he has the shortest pathway to victory.
NASCAR's been on a major download, so I hope you get better soon. I appreciate it.
Right behind Kurt is his brother Kyle Busch, a future two-time Cup champion and winner of more than 200 races across NASCAR's top 3 series.
Exactly.
Over 100 of those wins came in the series he's currently competing in at this moment, so there's pretty good odds that this might be one of them. Gaining on the two Busch brothers is Joey Logano, a future 3-time Cup champion.
Who's also a notorious asshole, but that's also neither here nor there. Logano was actually had more of like a, once again, early career, he was an asshole. Maybe so long on the old hate of Joey that was being instilled, but he slowly is coming about as he's getting more seasoned and more mature as time goes along.
And the youngest winner in NASCAR history. With his current momentum, he should be able to pass the 2 leaders before the finish line. Logano is being
Bane, he's a pretty big guy for you. I hope you know this.
Pushed by Trevor Bayne, who lacks the career accolades of the 3 drivers in front.
I'm sorry, I had to make a Bane post joke. It was there.
Of him, but does know his way around Daytona. In fact, he enters today's.
Sorry, let me do it. You're a pretty big guy for you. Now is not the time for fear, Dr. Powell. I have to do the voice, I'm sorry.
Race as the defending winner of NASCAR's most prestigious event, the Daytona 500. And finally, rounding out the top 5 with a full head of steam is Tony Stewart, the reigning Cup Series champion and the winner of this exact event the last 4 consecutive seasons.
Okay.
It seems like no matter what happens, Tony always finds a way to come out of this thing on top. These are your contenders, some of the most elite talent this sport has ever seen. A Daytona victory is at stake. And remember, everyone wants to win at Daytona.
Exactly.
All that's left to do is see who crosses the line.
I went to Comic-Con a few weeks ago in the city of Layad, and they also had a Monster Truck Rally too, which has filled up the event plaza. Oh, fuck yeah, that's awesome. Now was it the National Hot Rod Association Monster Jam, or was it Monster Truck or circuit, or was it the Monster Jam circuit? Because Monster Jam is the big one. The other one is also big, but it's where Bigfoot, Snakebite, and America and USA 1 compete, where like the OG monster truck drivers compete. Monster Jam is far more intensive in terms of like performance and everything. Meanwhile, the other one is meant to be more of like a smaller circuit, more local competitive. I personally like Monster Jam. I know it's more basic bitch than the National Hot Rod Association one, but if you want to see a good time, you go see Monster Jam at one of the large arenas, because they are fucking wild. I told this before on stream before. I got to witness the legends of Monster Jam in my time growing up as a child, in their prime. I'm talking, I got to watch the Anderson brothers grow up. I got to see Dennis in his prime. I got to see Tom Mentz in his prime. I don't know, Sally, because I wasn't there for that. I know. Some people just, it's a little obsessive, autistic hobby of mine. I got to witness Jim Kohler and, oh man, who drove Medusa? The lady who drove Medusa. I said before, I got to watch the best in their prime in the 2000s and early 2010s. That was bitchin' to watch. I don't know how it's going right now. Not sure if it's, and I think it's more so still large enough in the States to maintain itself, but in Canada, they've dropped the circuit way, way down into much smaller venues.
First.
So it's not worth watching. What the? Whoa.
Who gets through to win the race? Caution flag has just been called. The
There he
race
is.
leader is James Butcher in the 30 car.
So, when everyone was predicting the winner, did any of you happen to pick the guy in 11th place, who cruised to victory after every single driver in front of him crashed? This is James Butcher. Before today, he had never won a NASCAR race, and most people had no idea who he was.
What the hell is foy? Or full? Or foie? Is it foie? Yeah, it's foie. Like foie gras. What the hell is foie?
But now, he enters the record.
Fraternal Order of Eagles. Fraternal Order of Oh, FOE. Fraternal Order of Eagles. Okay. Either veterans or some sort of military affiliate. Okay. I thought it was like foie, like FOIE, but I'm like, no, foie is not spelled like that. Like foie gras is not spelled like that. The Fraternal Order of Eagles.
Books as a Daytona winner, besting some of the greatest drivers to ever race in the sport.
How do you figure
At
that?
the end of the day, all the talent, experience, and championships didn't end up mattering. Today's winner just happened to be in the right place at the right time.
Watch this.
Take a look at this real time. Now they're coming down the backstretch.
They fan out. They're at least 5 wide right here. Mike Skinner's going to make some contact with Mike Wallace first.
I'm also noticing too, they have trucks in the series. You know, I'm a hick from the South, but I know more about F1 than NASCAR because F1 in the past decade exploded in popularity. And here's an unpopular opinion because I know a lot of VTubers are now supposedly getting to F1. I was into Indy, and I also got to see F1 in its prime too. I say prime, one of its prime eras in the 2000s and early 2010s when they had the V10 era. I fell in love with the sound of the Renault Lotus team's engine and exhaust note because that thing is a howling monster of a car. F1's only popularity is become more so about the drivers and in terms of it being a... Okay, let's think about this for a sec. F1, I believe, ditched most of the pit girls in terms of like the attractive sex appeal of it. Not really that's saying that's what brings people to F1, but my thing is F1 has become more so less about the cars and more like a semi non-staged wrestling event. Because it's about the locale. It's about these wealthy drivers, high-performance machines regardless, but the FIA also meddles with like tires, tire manufacturers, and what they can and can't do. The restrictions are meant to also create drama. We had that whole controversy with the tire blowout drama that the FIA required the tire manufacturers to have for the cars, so they blow at a certain amount of mileage so that the driver would have to either pit or they have a dramatic blowout. And it's also more drama, more meddling to make it more exciting for the fans. It seems to be less about the cars. It's rocket power Mohawk for me. I like the memes. Exactly. I mean, for fuck's sake, I don't also hate the idea of it, the personality of drivers, because there's always been personable drivers throughout F1's storied history. Right now, it's more so about the drivers are now more comedic. Max Verstappen, especially famous Max Verstappen. I get he's everywhere, but like it's because he embraced the jokes about himself. He also plays into it. You also have drivers that, well, I forget one of the Japanese drivers is one of his names, but he's the one that has such a, like, he's a sailor's mouth because he's, once again, they pre-record or do heavy censorship on the car drivers, but they also make sure you can't swear, young driver. Well, when you're going at that fast with that much of G's put on you, in a high intensive races, the window licker, yeah. People are gonna be swearing their ass off, and from the stress of it, and I love him. I love him. He's so good. He's hilarious. But unfortunately, and I just say this, I get a lot of VTubers are supposedly they're getting into cars through F1. They're not getting into cars. They're getting into the wrestling kayfabe that is the motorsports of F1. Now, once again, F1 is a very high performance motorsport, and the drivers are definitely athletes, but the girls that are doing VTubing are not following it for the motorsport. They're following it for the kayfabe of it. I'm more curious about the cars. I'm more curious about the engine, the engineering behind the cars. I'm more so curious about each team's new engine and which technology they're testing in these cars that will make it into road cars. Because that's the point of motorsports, is for teams from factories to develop their car from these high-performance machines or from stock Grand Touring cars and slowly work them into everyday road cars, which, unfortunately, for performance and enjoyment of the car has not been done for decades, as we've seen with the cuckover invasion that is the cuckover car.
NASCAR is chaotic.
Exactly.
It's probably...
Sorry, going back to EmpLemon, but yeah, NASCAR is most definitely chaotic. It's always been chaotic. It's especially with the restricted places, especially with the tight racing, it's always been a mess.
The most chaotic motorsport in the world. You'd think that a racing series where drivers only have to worry about turning
what
one
the fuck happened there?
In the world. You'd think that a racing series...
How the hell did the Tropicana sign fall from there?
Only have to worry about turning one direction would be pretty simple and straightforward. But that's hard.
Love is basically a reality show with a presentation of a sport event. Exactly, and that's what I don't like. I'm fine with drivers being themselves off track. In fact, I'm fine with them being loudmouth and dirty mouth as much as they want. It's a very stressful sport. Being natural is good. Always bring the camera of them doing the celebrity booth and the booth things. It's painful. It reeks of slop entertainment. But that's what a lot of people like.
Hardly the case sports at all. In fact, preposterous stuff like this happens all the time in NASCAR.
What the hell?
If you watch long enough, you'll eventually come to expect it. But how exactly did this sport get so chaotic? It's a long story, but luckily, there is one driver.
It's the locale of it. And this is not with the new drivers, because it's very much, you know, semi-rich kids or, you know, very upper class Southerners doing it nowadays, or, you know, of course, from California too. NASCAR, I'm going to say my hypothesis before we continue on the video. NASCAR's chaoticism came from the fact that, once again, it was originated from moonshine runners, that we know about the storied history post-Second World War and post-Prohibition, but mainly post-Second World War. You had a lot of drivers that also were former soldiers, if not pilots, and they had a lot of balls. Why moms need to want to watch hot, rich 20 and 30-year-olds have drama, exactly. But a lot of, that's dealing with F1. But with NASCAR, it's because a lot of these guys were working class. You could say hicks, you can say white trash, redneck. Most of them weren't that. In fact, they were very intelligent to a degree in terms of like smarts with mechanics. These were working class men. It was the layman's motorsport. And remember, NASCAR used to race on dirt tracks way back in the in the first decade, first decade and a half of its conception. It was dirt track racing. It was dirty. It was sliding. It was stock cars, actual, almost stock cars racing against each other. So it was a more affordable grassroots entry sport to get into, and it was dirty. It was rough. It was chaotic, and that's where that style came from, because of its layman roots. Unlike, once again, as what Razgers is saying here, why is, I just realized my chat's not displaying what is going on here. Oh boy, I have to fix that in post. My chat's not displaying for some reason. Oh boy. But as Razgers was saying here is that, yeah, it's F1 currently is for the wine moms. Want to watch the 20 and 30-year-olds. Yeah, really, NASCAR was mob run, if I remember correctly. No, actually, NASCAR was made in spite of the mob. It was Big Bill Hick made the sport because he himself was a former driver, and he was tired of seeing basically owners of tracks pocketing the money and not paying out the winnings for the drivers that basically ran the race. It was to kind of start some sort of organization of talented drivers to compete in legally sanctioned events with proper pay. That's what NASCAR was.
Who can help us navigate through this whole mess. Because all along in this very race, an agent of chaos has been lurking. Disorder seems to follow him wherever he goes, and in the next several years, his presence will usher in an age of anarchy that no one knew was possible.
Okay, so Brad Dillon, you also notice here too. Look at the number he has. So if you don't know who Brad Dillon is the son of one of the I believe, the former current managers, if not higher-ups, of NASCAR. Guess what number they de-retired to give to him? This number was only retired because of the circumstances of the fatality of whom it belonged to. Also, the talent of the man himself, and the one who basically blew NASCAR up in its heyday. Yes, Dale Earnhardt. I know Dale Earnhardt died even before I was born, but the sentimentality still sticks with me. Because Dale, I smell Nepo baby. It always is. This is unfortunately what happens. And I don't think it's just motorsports. I believe in even in other sanctioned sports, people will de-retire absolute, from the bottom of the barrel, legends, numbers, who start from nothing, to give to some spoiled brat who daddy got him in and got him through all the clearances, got him the best way through, and could pull the right strings. I believe it's happened in other sports too. I believe it happened in hockey as well. This is just depressing. To besmirch the king to prop your own son up. And this one thing, this most hated driver in NASCAR is what I believe the video is called by EmpLemon. So once again, Dale Earnhardt was controversial in his time, but people respected him. Dylan does not have any respect in this regard.
Presence will usher in an age of anarchy that no one knew was possible. It turns out that chaos happens to be the subject of
Chaos. Here to kill chaos. Oh, where's Jack when you need him? Where's Jack when you need him?
considerable scientific study. Its properties are especially important to industries attempting to predict the future. Understanding chaos could provide major breakthroughs in finance, logistics, and numerous other disciplines that society depends on to function. Perhaps the most famous principle of chaos theory is the butterfly effect, which dictates how tiny changes in a system may produce drastic differences in the future. The implications of this are profound and have far-reaching consequences in just about anything you can imagine.
They better do this shit to Drew Brees. There's always that time they will.
Including stock car racing. One of NASCAR's biggest butterfly effects was set in motion during the 1969 Talladega 500.
Which is what EmpLemon did a video on, which we did a react on. And Talladega is interesting, but he'll reiterate what he spoke of.
Conveniently, this race also offers us a look into the chaotic origins of the sport itself. From the very beginning, NASCAR has served as a battleground for the eternal struggle between law and disorder. The entire history of NASCAR can be traced back to something frequently found at all of its races: drunk people.
Hell yeah! Hit the Buc-ee's, boy! Everybody in this bitch get tipsy.
In 1919, American lawmakers decided that alcohol was causing too much chaos around the nation, so they passed a constitutional amendment banning the sale of all liquor.
What did I say? What did I fucking say?
Unwilling to depart from their way of life, the drunks sought what they desired from the black market. In the Southeast, this market would be fulfilled by moonshiners, who forged their own bootleg distilleries far away from city limits. Once the contraband was produced,
moonshiners also were a big part of Canadian history as well. Because I believe Prohibition was not... Okay, Prohibition was never federal up here. Damn fascist, exactly. Prohibition was never federal up here. And also, if you want to blame who did Prohibition, it was both a moral Christian group, but people often like to associate with them. Mainly, though, the one that did Prohibition, who instilled it, was actually the feminist groups of the early time, the early suffragettes, because of women's abuse. They were the ones that basically helped really push into federal law Prohibition, working with a moralist act. Same guys basically partnering up with them, but majority of the push came from the suffragette movement. However, going back to what I'm saying, which is kind of ironic, because a lot of suffragettes were also trying to be flappers, but it was like a divide in the mix there. But going back to what I was saying, though, is that with the moonshine runners, a lot of talent for a lot of different things in motorsports came from moonshine runners. Once again, majority of also moonshining also came from Canada too, because the mob would set up distilleries and these brew houses up in Canada, and they'd have them shipped in down for the northern territory like Chicago and New York. Personally blame some evangelicals and feminists. I personally blame some evangelicals and feminists. Exactly, that's what happened. But what happened though is that while in the South, moonshine runners were basically doing as that famous Earl's what's his last name? His first name. Its last name is Earl. But Copperhead Road was based off the post-war Prohibition, not even Prohibition, it was post-war moonshine runners, because it was also cheap liquor, and that was much harder and deregulated as opposed to the regulated liquor being sold. But Dave Earl, there we go. However, in the North, a lot of motorsport drivers also got in their tuning shops got up north from the Canadian, when the Canadian moonshine runners. They would basically, when they do their trips, they'd also have to do the same thing the guys in the South did, but for longer distances, and also usually during the winter. This also, in turn, just like the Southerners, helped develop North America with not just a hot rodding scene and tuning culture. Capone's was running moonshine from Canada, right? Capone, Luciento, or is it Luciana? Yeah, basically any majority Italian mobster was running from Canada. What I'm going back to it is that a lot of them basically a lot of techniques that we associate with Japan as well. Like, the Japanese innovated in racing with the drifting. It was innovated from both the Swedes, the Canadians, and Americans especially. The Swedes and Americans especially is where drifting came from, and a lot of rally sport driving came from, because a lot of these guys had to harden their suspension, tune them up, learn how to handle with low traction and low ability for lots of oversteer and understeer. So they developed different techniques to keep themselves going and also improve their car's handling. This is where it came from. Japan just innovated on what was being spread around the world at the time, but this is where a lot of the techniques came from for rally racing. So a lot of tuning culture in the States came from, and knowledge came from this era. So it's just interesting to see how much the prohibition basically affected motorsports and automotive as a whole.
It had to be
because not just with the tuning culture, but they also had to give cops cars that were basically powerful enough to keep up with these tuned-up cars. Like most good things, it came from white America. Ain't that the truth?
Ported back into town for sale and
from Hyperborea in white America.
Distribution. The problem was that the road back to civilization was often infested with cops waiting to catch any illicit deliveries.
Yep.
Drivers soon found the solution, upgrading their personal vehicles to outrun police cruisers. After decades of racing the cops, the moonshiners started racing each other.
Now, you also gotta know too is that they didn't make them hot rodders like that for the most part, unless you're doing some weight savings. But mostly it was mostly to carry more supply, as well as keeping it as a sleeper. That was another technique they would do. Basically, sleepers were the best option because you could basically not draw attention to yourself until you slammed on the throttle and let her sing.
Unsanctioned competitions started to pop up around the country to see who had the most power under the hood. But these early races were often dysfunctional, with little to no oversight. Enter Bill France, a man with a vision
not Bill Hick, Bill France is his name. There we go.
For the future of stock car racing. Starting in 1948, he helps consolidate these disorganized events into a national touring series with guaranteed payouts and a scoring system to crown an overall champion. This new league would be known as Nascar. From the very beginning, it wasn't much more than organized chaos. So what does all this have to do with one summer day in 1969? Well, the complex interplay between order and chaos would continue shaping NASCAR far into the future. The new sport proved quite popular with drivers and spectators alike. As the sole owner and chairman of the venture, Big Bill had found himself with a lucrative proposition. If stock car racing kept growing, it would pay off very well for him and his family. But how do you convince the average Joe to watch a bunch of cars drive in circles? The answer: build the biggest, fastest circle in the world. Bill France foresaw that NASCAR's path to prosperity existed on a fine line between competition and spectacle.
Once again, I believe they are 30-degree angles. Or like these are acute angles that they operate on the Daytona turn areas. Actually, most of the track is on an embankment, but this especially the peak of the turns. You can set a chair up like this. This is fucking nuts.
And so, he began to invest heavily in the entertainment value of the sport. He constructed new circuits that were borderline experimental.
And this era of the United States was a time to be alive. It used to be a good country.
Higher speeds, bigger accidents, more risk, and more reward. This all culminated with NASCAR's ultimate behemoth, Talladega Superspeedway, scheduled to open in the September of 1969. But before the inaugural race, there was a problem. The racing surface was too fast for the tires to handle. After numerous blowouts in practice, I
can thank Drunk People and Monsters in the 30s for my favorite movie when I was 5. Oh yeah, if you're talking about cars, yeah. Same here.
Drivers feared conditions were too
Cars and Speed Racer, but Speed Racer is a different breed, a different inspiration.
Dangerous to race. And just like that, NASCAR had reached an impasse. The quest for spectacle had driven a wedge between the competitors and the sanctioning body. Something had to give. And when confronted with the possibility of canceling the event, Bill France insisted that the show must go on. When faced with a chaotic situation, NASCAR had decided to double down. What followed was, to this day, the only large-scale driver boycott of any NASCAR event. Nearly every star
Cars was peak. Well, here's the thing too, is that people forget, Cars, first off, a lot of, if you remember the scourge of animation reviewers, Speed Racer is Japanese. I know it was Japanese. But with the scourge of animation YouTubers for the past, like, decade or more, especially during the 2010s, it was like we know the stereotype, animation cinema, but except if it's animation that makes me uncomfortable and it's not like a kid's movie from Disney or Pixar. Basically, let's review Avatar: The Last Airbender for the 100th time and call it, Next Coming of Jesus Christ, or let's make every Pixar movie more deeper and more thought out than it is, because once again, they're well crafted movies and for art, but it's also a case of still kids movies, and they treat it, but that's all they ever focus on. A lot of those reviewers did not like Cars, because I feel like a lot of them also lack testosterone, and they probably hated that their older brother or younger brother loved Cars, and mom and dad saw more potential in them than their fat, sloppy 12 to 15-year-old son who was still watching children's movies. But I digress. People forget that Cars was not even part of the original planning from Pixar when they did that lunchroom meeting for their set movies they were going to do before they closed up shop entirely, which unfortunately Disney bought them out and we saw how it's declined. Cars was actually a project that John Lasseter pitched after, I believe, either Bug's Life or Finding Nemo. It wasn't Finding Nemo before or after, but it was basically he pitched it because he was having burnout. He went with his family on a trip across small town America, down Route 66, and he wanted to make a story to function that. And remember, a lot of the guys, and there were also women on the Pixar team, they were kids at heart in a good way, where they still had childhood aspiration, and a lot of them grew up with what was their favorite bunch of pretentious cucks, I say. Exactly. But a lot of the original team grew up with toy cars, loving motorsports, loving racing. They grew up with Speed Racer. They grew up with Smokey and the Bandit. They grew up with fucking even George Lucas. What made George Lucas so big enough to have the funding for Star Wars was American Graffiti, right? These guys grew up with that stuff. American Graffiti is Fast and Furious for boomers. And it's a damn good movie, by the way, for a low-budget movie. But my thing is that Cars itself was basically a passion project that became its own work of art. Now, you can definitely tell it's much different from a lot of the other Pixar movies, because it's got a lot more references to motorsports. It's got more passion about motorsports. It's got a lot of humor about a lot more American humor, right? I mean, a lot more dirtier jokes and innuendos that are hidden, because it's meant to be an all-Americana movie, like about not just their love for sports, love for cars, but small-town America. We love small-town America. And that's what a lot of the animation reviewers did not like, or these animation channels did not like, because it loved America. And also it focused on stock car racing for the first movie. George got inspired to make pod racing. Exactly. Fucking Sebulba's, I know Sebulba's car sound effect came from a different vehicle. Sorry, his pod racing from a different vehicle. But if you ever hear a cammed big block, it sounds like Sebulba's does at Idol. Right? That blah, 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 blah. Once again, this was American adults who still had the heart of children, but had the passion and skills to make art, deciding to give a love letter to what they loved from childhood in the first Cars movie. And you know what they did? They chose the most American motorsport possible, NASCAR. And goddamn, did they? And then he just we're making a movie about NASCAR, but we're gonna put XY celebrity all the way in it. They got racing legends. Fucking hell, Doc Hudson was voiced by Paul Newman. Paul Newman, yes, an actor. Paul Newman was a race car driver for the Datsun Fairlady team in the 70s, had the first Skyline in the United States, taught and trained Tom Cruise for racing, was a profoundly talented driver. You got him in there. They had Michael Schumacher, Mario Andretti, Dale Earnhardt Jr. They had the King was voiced by the King, Richard Petty. They even got the announcers who were former drivers for NASCAR to make appearances in the movie. It was a love letter to that time. And once again, I know we're off topic from the EmpLemon video, but this is just art. Once again, this is something that's all American, and that's what I fucking love about NASCAR. I love NASCAR. Even though I'm not American, I love NASCAR because a lot of Canadians who understand our nation, we used to be very close to how America operates because we were basically like a little brother to America in a weird way before we went astray. This is what I love. This is what I love.
Competitor refused to show up for race day.
And they also
Their
made my childhood in the
absence
process.
would
A lot
create
of our
unique
childhoods.
Opportunity. To fill up the empty field, Bill France would open up the grid to drivers from NASCAR's lower divisions
Yeah, exactly.
who would now be racing for a life.
Look at this, even too. A lot of Southerners, yes. Paris, Ontario, Canada. Yes, Les Covey. How the fuck are you getting some random dickhead from Ontario, Canada? Do you know also how big dirt track racing is in Canada as well? Like, we don't just have like a couple small sanctioned events up here. We have rally racing. We have dirt track racing. We have a lot of shit up here too. Like this, we were, a lot of rural parts of Canada were like the southern states too. And not like, I know people go, oh, you were racist. No, we weren't fucking racist. But we had the fun shit. We had the cool stuff you guys used to have too. God. It hurts me to see how far my nation fell.
Changing amounts of money. This is where the butterfly effect truly begins, because one of these drivers was a 23-year-old Richard Childress, who would use his winnings to open up his very own race shop and begin a full-time racing career. Over the next decade, he becomes a top 10 driver in the sport, before retiring from competition and managing his race team from the pit box.
And his number was 3 too. God willing, we're only in Canada, Hyperborea as the 51st state. God willing, God willing. But yeah, number 3. And guess whose number he gave that to?
Replacing Childress in the number 3 car is one of NASCAR's most promising young prospects. His name is Dale Earnhardt.
Hail to the king,
It's
baby.
strange to think how all the history that followed, the dominance, the drama, the triumph, and the tragedy, came so close to never existing. But such is the nature of chaos, it can produce effects in the future that may seem unthinkable in the present. In NASCAR's case, a set of faulty tires and a driver boycott would set in motion a direct chain of events that eventually led to the sport's darkest day, more than 30 years later. Following Earnhardt's fatal accident at Daytona, his now iconic number 3 would be unofficially retired across NASCAR's major series. As a show of respect, the other race teams would purposely avoid assigning the number to any of their cars.
Exactly. You can still have... Richard's petty number was never retired. Up to that time, during Earnhardt's reign, was one of the most winningest drivers of all time. And prolific drivers. They didn't retire his number. Solely because he didn't have that tragedy.
That privilege would be left to Richard Childress, who had the final say on whether it would ever return.
Right.
After more than 8 years, car number 3 would be resurrected at what seems like a random race in Iowa. But for Richard Childress, today is a special occasion. All this time, he's been saving the number for precisely one driver. This particular race happens to be the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series debut of his grandson, Austin
You have to go have fun. We'll have to catch another one when he shoots. Thanks, Raskris.
Dylan. And as the world of NASCAR got to know the heir to the Childress throne, they would soon discover that chaos runs in the family.
Okay, so I was wrong. Okay, I remember from EmpLemon's Dale Earnhardt video that it was given to a different guy through nepotism. But I could have been wrong that he came after Dylan.
Gonna be a big one. Around goes the 3 in front of the pack. They're all collected.
Richard Childress's grandson trying to return the 3 to NASCAR victory.
Oh, it's his grandson. That was where the nepotism came from. Okay. Okay. I should also apologize because, I mean, it was Childress's number to have. I get it. Earnhardt was the king. Then again, it's the owner's choice. And this, I guess it's fine. It's still a nipple baby thing, but I guess maybe.
Thank you, Jesus, baby.
While the return of the 3 car was met with excitement, Some question whether its new driver was worthy of carrying on such a legacy.
Right.
His hand-picked opportunities seem to stand in direct contrast to the blue-collar grit of Earnhardt, who had cut his teeth for years before his big break. By this point, the Childresses had become quite wealthy, and when it came to Austin
Yeah, this is the difference.
Dillon, the phrase silver spoon certainly came to mind. However, unfazed by the doubters, the young driver began working his way up the ranks. Just 1 year later, Dillon would score his first NASCAR victory at the age of 20. The following season, he would take home the Truck Series championship, beating some of the sport's most wily veterans. Dillon was then promoted to the Nationwide Series, taking the number 3 with him. Despite the stiffer competition, he would again reach victory lane and finish 3rd in the championship.
So silver spoon, but he's doing pretty good.
Now at this point, you might be wondering, where's the chaos? And thus far, nothing about Dillon's career appears out of the ordinary. If anything, he looks like a real straight shooter with a bright future ahead of him.
And a bit of a
the following
goofball too.
season is where things start to get weird. The 2013 Nationwide Championship came down to a tight points battle between Dillon and Sam Hornish Jr. In the end, Dillon would prevail by a narrow margin,
Right.
and in doing so, earned himself a rather dubious distinction. It was the first time in any of NASCAR's 3 major series where the champion did not win a single race during the entire season. No one knew it at the time, but this event may have played a hand in opening up Pandora's box. Because unbeknownst to everyone else, the sport of NASCAR is about to change in a drastic way. To prevent
The Chase series, oh god.
anything like this from happening again. So, how exactly do you crown a champion in racing? Well, the most intuitive solution seen from F1 to Mario Kart is to
Max Verstappen.
award points for each event and tally them up at the end of the season.
True.
The driver who scored the most points is your champion. This was pretty much how NASCAR's champions were determined over the first half-century of the sport's existence. The precise method of awarding points would vary from year to year, but the general logic remained the same. Show up to the races, finish well, and you'll find yourself in the championship hunt. It's quite simple, really. There's a reason why every other motorsport in the world works this way. But somewhere down the line, NASCAR decided that the time had come to reinvent the wheel.
Never, ever do this. You can innovate. You can modify. You can't reinvent the wheel.
The system they had just wasn't chaotic enough. The conversation began during the 2003 Cup Series season, which saw 2 drivers dominate the spotlight. The first was Ryan Newman, who collected a season-high 8 victories but seemed to suffer just as many catastrophic results throughout the year. The second was Matt Kenseth, who won just a single time early on but ran consistently near the top of the grid all season long.
Okay.
Looking at both of these results in a vacuum, it's hard to say who was the more deserving. Looking at both of these
Hang on, I want to go back here.
but ran consistently near the top of the grid all season long.
Good lord, look at that head. Look, you can land a fucking Harrier jet on that.
Looking at both of these results in a vacuum, it's hard to say who was the more deserving champion. This question is quite abstract and depends on your subjective interpretation of what really matters in racing.
Okay.
But in this case, NASCAR's point system determined Kenseth as the heavy winner while Newman finished a distant 6th. So, NASCAR's point system favors consistency over winning.
Okay.
Is that really such a big deal?
That's how motorsports has always been. For a lot of motorsports. Motorsports is not like a team sport where it's winner takes all. It's a point system, right? Because you have so many teams competing at one event at the same time, and you have to go through a point system. Starting to make it into a elimination thing is just not going to work.
Well, it was a big deal for some people. And by some people, I mean the people in charge of NASCAR. During this time, the sport is riding on an unprecedented wave of popularity.
Yeah.
Jeff Gordon is hosting Saturday Night Live, and stock car racing has infiltrated the minds of the masses. But with this,
I've never been a fan of what's it called? Talladega Nights. I've never really been a fan of it, or even really liked it all that much. Considering how what's his face turned out, it turned like as he's gotten more and more insane throughout the years. You can say it's politically charged why I may not like it, but am I wrong? It's because it's mostly spitting down on South America. Yes, you can parody. I'm not being offended. Ooh, I'm clutching my pearls on offensive. It's just, considering the way he is, it feels more like a slap in the face of like a rich celebrity talking shit about NASCAR.
success came a new level of paranoia among NASCAR's executives, who were now terrified of anything that might scare off the casual viewers, such as a driver running away with the championship using steady, conservative racecraft. And so, starting in 2004, the decision was made to overhaul the tried-and-true format into something more chaotic. Introducing the Chase for the Cup, which took the existing point system and added a reset after the first 2/3 of the schedule. From there, the top 10 or so drivers would compete for the championship over the final 10 races. So no more runaway champions. If you want to prove you're the best, you now have to defend your title in crunch time. Sounds exciting, right? A closer points battle means more contenders and more action. So let's take a look at all the closer points
Some of these sponsorships, I swear to God. Even getting Viagra to sponsor it.
battle means more contenders and more action. So let's take a look at all the exciting new champions that the Chase helped create. Guys like Kurt Busch, Tony Stewart, Jimmy Johnson, Jimmy Johnson, Jimmy Johnson, Jimmy Johnson, and Jimmy Johnson. So, while trying to stop someone from leading the whole season, NASCAR ended up causing the same guy to win every season. It turns out that when you try to add chaos to a system, order can still emerge in strange and unforeseen ways. In this case, Johnson's race team had deduced that since the final 10 events now mattered so much more than the rest of the season, the optimal strategy was to invest all their resources into those 10 tracks. The team became unbeatable in the chase and ushered in the most dominant dynasty in the history of the sport.
So just like even though it's kind of more, it's definitely more chance oriented. Just like the video we saw on Moneymaker with EmpLemon's video about the poker star Moneymaker, Chris Moneymaker. In the current day of poker, you no longer have the wild betting, crazy characters. Every year's a new year, right? Even there may be complete winners in PokerStar that do win more often than not. There's always that wild X factor. There's always a new legend joining the table from nowhere. It's now become hyper analytical. You can say it's the same thing. It's kind of like watching how esports, I fucking hate esports because esports in the West, became just like that. Safe plays only. Do this way. There's not really that much gambling. It's very analytical. It's the person who wants the spec sheet, the best spec sheet for the best events, and we're doing everything analytically. There is no more wild card X factors, no aggression, no more rapid adaptation to a track or to an event, to a course. Nothing. It's boring. It's lame. And it drives away people because everyone wants the spec sheet. We're making it more exciting by messing around. And the people that know how to play are going to do the most safest bets possible. There's no more X factors. And just like once again, going back to what I said about modern poker, like it's you got people that train themselves on the most optimal play, the most optimal way to play things. It's no longer fun. It's no longer just someone muscling out through luck, through chaos, or through a little bit more guts. And while it was a smart move by Jim Johnson's team, it made the sport boring.
It was so dominant that people started tuning out in droves,
Yeah.
and NASCAR had entered its first prolonged period of decline.
And it's still declining.
So, lesson learned, right? The chaos experiment had clearly failed, and maybe it's time for the sport to go back to basics.
Yeah.
But as was the case with a certain other dilemma from long ago, NASCAR decided to double down. It is from this point that stock car racing as we know it completely exits the realm of normality. If you've been following along so far, it's time to reach up there and pull those belts tight one more time. You're about to witness what happens when a motorsport takes the wrong turn. In 2014, Austin Dillon was introduced to the Cup Series, and the Cup Series was introduced to the NASCAR playoffs.
Here we go.
Say goodbye to the boring dynasties and zero-win champions of the past, and say hello to eliminations, multi-round resets, and the winner-take-all finale.
It's just adding so many more layers and extra steps. Resets and reintegrations. I fucking just... Oh my god. It is just so boring. They were trying to recreate, essentially, the three-way tie from Cars. Yes, movies are fun and fanciful, but you don't try to make movies reality. God damn it. Movies are supposed to be inspired by reality. You don't go the inverse.
A 16-driver clusterfuck so convoluted and contrived that we're still struggling to understand it.
Yeah.
What happens from here is going to get very confusing, but...
And I think more often than not, it was based on drivers with the most popularity, most revenue income, or the ones who could pay off their way into it. So that would get selected for the resets.
Luckily for us, we have Austin Dillon to help us navigate this new landscape of chaos. Consider him as your friendly guide who we can use to answer any questions about what the hell is going on in front of you. Over the next 12 seasons, he will be far from the most important character in our story. Sometimes you may forget he's even there at all, but trust me, by the end of this wild ride, he will have played his part in it. Dillon's full-time Cup career began with a...
The yellow jester does not dance, but gently pulls the strings. He smiles as the puppets dance in the court of the Crimson King. Yeah, he is the jester. He is the jester in the wild card.
Bright spot, as he put the 3-car on pole for the Daytona 500.
Hey!
After this, however, he would quickly learn that winning in the Cup Series is exponentially harder than in the lower divisions. In his rookie campaign, he fails to win a race and fails to qualify for the 16-man playoffs. In this new era of racing, winning might as well be everything. Just one victory in any of the first 26 races will automatically qualify you for the playoffs. Furthermore, winning in any of the first 3 rounds will automatically advance you to the next one. We'll dive deeper into the implications of this later, but all you need to know for now is that to win the championship, you're practically required to win races. In the very first year of the NASCAR playoffs, a driver with 0 wins nearly wins the championship.
What?
Funnily enough, it's Austin Dillon's teammate Ryan Newman
Well, no shit.
who experiences the inverse of his 2003 season. Running off of pure consistency, he makes it to the Final Four without a single victory. It was entirely possible that the playoffs would immediately crown the exact type of champion it was designed to prevent. Fortunately for NASCAR, Kevin Harvick would edge out Newman at the last moment and spare them the embarrassment.
It was sponsored by Outback. So, I'm a fan of Kirsha, the streamer Kirsha, and she always goes on that she doesn't understand sport car or car racing, but she remembers when Kevin Harvick drove for Outback, and if Outback came in the top 3 or top 5 in any of the races for I believe Harvick's career with them underneath their sponsorship tenure, they would give out a free bloomin' onion with an order. I wonder how many bloomin' onions they got after Harvick won this one.
But the fact that this scenario was even a possibility served as a bad omen for the new system. Even more alarming was the way that Newman made it to the finals. In the penultimate race, needing one more position to advance, Newman door-slammed Kyle Larson in the final corner to take the spot by force. The move signaled a shocking breakdown in etiquette. It went far beyond a racing incident and instead came off as cheap and desperate.
Yeah.
Few realized at the time that this was only the beginning. The playoffs didn't just change the way that points were calculated, they were altering the fundamental spirit of competition in the sport.
People complain about Dale Earnhardt's like bump and run tactics, but he never tried to crash drivers. He would tap you, set off your rhythm, and then skirt past you. But they're trying to actually wreck each other now.
It started out small, but soon enough, there'd be no telling the depths drivers were willing to stoop in the name of winning.
I'm afraid if it was that ugly these last couple
What is this Speed Racer-ass music, though, he's got playing in the background?
weeks, it's going to get really ugly next week.
In 2015, Austin Dillon is still searching for his first Cup win. He doesn't get it, and actually finishes worse in the standings than in his rookie campaign. All of this, however, would be overshadowed, because when people think of Austin Dillon in the year 2015, they will be reminded of precisely one moment. There's an old adage among professional drivers that you don't know whether you're cut out for racing until you've had your first bad crash.
Yeah.
As it turns out, Dillon's first memorable moment in Cup was an airborne collision at Talladega. For most drivers, this would easily qualify as the most severe accident of their career, but fate had other plans for the 3-car.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I mean, Dale also had how many wrecks that were just wicked throughout his career. Yeah, that car's gonna be cursed.
In NASCAR, there are bad wrecks, there are scary wrecks, and then there are wrecks where you seriously doubt if the driver will ever step out of the car again. On a suffocating July night at Daytona, the sport would experience one of these rare moments where everyone feared for the worst. This whole race felt like a fever dream after a rain delay pushed the start time to nearly midnight. As the laps ticked further into the early morning, the drivers' growing fatigue set the stage for a chaotic series of events. In the final run to the finish, the entire field is pushed beyond the edge of control. When you have a blob of 30 or so cars traveling around 200 miles per hour, that's a pretty fragile system. And when fragile systems meet chaos, they tend to break down.
Exactly.
In NASCAR, this situation is known as the Big One. In a typical season, you can expect to see several of these pileups, which occur most often at Daytona and Talladega, the super speedways.
This is where the highest top speed is usually are. And with Talladega especially, there seems to be a curse around that track, where wind is able to just get underneath one car just right during a tap, and they'll get airborne.
The reason for this can actually be traced back to a rare instance where NASCAR tried to reduce chaos. The cars are bunched up like this because they have restrictor plates which prevent anyone from pulling away from the pack. The cars need restrictor plates because without them, they'd be going too fast. The cars were going too fast because in 1987, one of them lifted off and tore a giant hole in the catch fence. Spectator safety happens to be one area where NASCAR prefers to play it safe, so they tried to restore order to superspeedway racing. But it turns out that when you try to add order to a system, chaos can still emerge in strange and unforeseen ways.
It's just like with the rapid amount of like overbearing on car safety nowadays to an unhealthy degree, because there's a healthy amount of degree to actually innovation in terms of safety, like crumple zones and molding of the frame and chassis, and how you can basically reduce rollovers. And then there's like Tesla levels where it's retarded, where they will like, oh, this car can roll itself back over. How many electronic systems are there to make it do that? Oh, does it really matter? But the most obnoxious one is all the extra safety stuff to basically cater to the lowest demographic of IQ. And the funny thing is about natural selection is no matter how safe you make things at the expense of the average person, the absolute retards will find a way to kill themselves and others. Because they're innovative in finding new ways to kill themselves.
The funny thing about NASCAR is that if you watch long enough, everything always comes full circle.
Checker flag right here. Big wreck in your mirror. Big wreck in your mirror. Oh my God. That looks awful.
When the Big One strikes, you get to witness one of the most expensive physics simulations in the world. Sometimes the randomness of the system will produce an outcome that you never imagined was possible. Austin Dillon's Chevy was bumped at the precise angle to launch him over the top of the pack and into the catch fence. The car went from 190 to a complete stop in about a second. It's moments like this that you really appreciate the courage it takes to be a professional driver, knowing that each and every time.
However, remember the deceleration from 190 to stopping here. I know it's going to be spoilers, but he will live from this because the G-forces exert upon the body, and basically simply put enough in physics, the time it took for him to slow down was enough for the dissipation of force to occur, where it would not be fatal from him. It was also not a head-on collision, meaning there's no one-way concentration of force. So his spine and neck will be intact. Those couple of seconds, especially when you see this momentous rollover, people get all freaked out when they see cars rolling like this. That's actually a good thing in motorsports because there's a transfer of energy and force and speed as he slowly comes to a crawl from that roll. When it was with Earnhardt, that's what killed him. Of course, they innovated the Hans device afterwards, but mainly what killed Earnhardt was the rapid deacceleration in a single concentrated area where the brunt of impact was taken. It's the worst area possible because it was at the right front corner of the car. The shock through it was enough to break his neck. And this here is, while it's gruesome to look at it, and this is after the years of innovation and the Hans safety device. He's gonna walk fine from this.
Time you strap into one of these machines, you may never leave. What happens next, however, is even more shocking.
What an incredible sight to see Austin Dillon walking away from that 3 car that is demolished.
Austin Dillon.
Look at that. The engine and tranny are sitting right there on fire. Right? Over 300 pounds of aluminum, of composite metal right here on fire. And he's fine.
Away from this, almost completely unharmed. The word miracle gets thrown around a lot these days, but this is one of those pieces of footage where you keep watching it and have no other explanation. When you consider the history of the 3 car at Daytona, the whole thing gets all the more eerie. Indeed, the safety innovations that NASCAR adopted following Earnhardt's death must have certainly saved Austin Dillon on this day. From this point on, Driver 3 has been fully intertwined with the whims of fate. He just withstood the ultimate trial of chaos, and in doing so, has earned its blessing. Good timing too, because NASCAR is getting more chaotic with each passing day. So let's check in on the 2nd annual NASCAR playoffs. This season, we got to witness one driver intentionally cause the big one to save himself from elimination.
Yeah, Logano did that.
An eliminated driver intentionally demolishing the points leader, and the crowning of a champion who missed a third of the entire schedule. For anyone paying attention, the competitive integrity of the sport was starting to disintegrate before our very eyes. But for the sanctioning body, it was more good old-fashioned drama. Despite the looming...
Just like my problem with F1. This is what we saw, and this is what my fear for F1 is, because it will go into decline because of this. It's when the sanction body starts meddling and creating so much more drama and like a reality show situation, as Razgers called it. It dilutes itself from the true fan base of the sport. Instead of having a steady growth, it'll have a quick fad burst and then a rapid decline as original fans are tired and exhausted and feel betrayed by the new, and the new fad fans, the modern audience, the common denominator, move on to the next big thing. Tell the wine moms that this is like fucking reality show when it's all this glitz and glitter, and then even they'll get sick of it and move on to the next fad. It's depressing.
Concerns, the folks in charge decided to double, no triple down on the playoffs. Starting in 2016, NASCAR's 2 remaining series were also forced to adopt the new system.
Of course.
Which now pervaded the sport from top to bottom. 2016 marks the third full-time Cup season.
What a chaotic year as a whole 2016 was. Not just NASCAR. Holy shit, the world went on its head. I'm not talking about who won the presidential election. Yeah, it was a chaotic factor in that regard. Once again, I'm very much right wing. I may have been a Trump supporter at one point. I'm just indifferent to the guy because he's very much status quo politician. But holy shit, that was a wild year as a whole.
For Austin Dillon, and the time has come to pick up the pace. He's trying to outrun an accusation that will follow him throughout his career. Kevin Harvick, RCR's previous flagship driver, has become a dominant contender since leaving the team. Dillon, on the other hand, has shown no signs of improvement, leading some to question whether he deserves his seat in the Cup Series.
Yeah.
Nepotism is a vice.
It'd be nice if things came from these things, but oh no arrests. Or more war in the sandbox. Gotta fight for our greatest ally.
That affects nearly all walks of life, but it can be especially apparent in the world of sports.
Yeah. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha.
Where the bar for excellence is so very high. Any athlete who gets stuck with the dreaded label of Nepo Baby becomes ripe for ridicule. Pay drivers can be found across all motorsports, where wealth really is a substitute for talent. Running a race team is expensive, and sometimes you need a delusional rich
Welcome to the machine.
kid to pick up the slack. In NASCAR, this was the case with the heir to the Zaxby's fortune, John West Townley, who would soon be known by his nickname, John Rex Weekly. However, such clear-cut cases of nepotism in stock car racing usually aren't so easy to spot. The history of NASCAR is full of racing families, from the Pettys to the
Pettys. Earnhardts too.
to the Elliots. After all, this whole sport is one big family business. Austin Dillon was hardly the first NASCAR grandson to inherit the keys to the kingdom. The same could be said about the guy overseeing this whole story. This is Brian France, who happens to be the individual responsible for all these recent changes. Brian's grandfather oversaw the sport's foundation. His father focused on expansion, and Brian's expertise happens to be in acceleration. To what end exactly? It remains to be seen. But the third-generation NASCAR chairman happens to be a big believer in chaos and is prepared to pursue it by any means necessary. Of course, the Brian France era of NASCAR would almost... NASCAR chairman happens to be a big believer...
This just... Yeah! Oh, this is WWE. Okay, so they're even integrating this into it.
Believer in chaos and is prepared to pursue it by any means necessary. Of course, the Brian France era of NASCAR would almost immediately coincide with a precipitous decline in viewership. But who's counting anyway? Most radical new ideas take a while to catch on, so surely the next NASCAR boom is right around the corner. You see, both Austin Dillon and Brian France may have benefited from an extraordinary level of job security, but the difference between them is that Dillon's performance is directly measurable.
Yeah.
His successes and failures are fully transparent to anyone watching. Every time he goes out and competes, he's putting his own legacy at risk. The opportunity may have come easy, but he knows damn well not to squander it. In 2016, Austin Dillon takes a notable step forward, setting career bests in top 10s, top 5s, and average finish.
Good.
He even qualifies for the 16-man playoffs, finishing the year 14th in the standings.
Good.
He's getting better, but for many fans, it's not enough. No one really wants to watch the iconic number 3 right around mid-pack. They would much prefer if it was up front competing for the win. For Austin, a victory would carry extra significance. His grandfather, despite a long career, was never able to win at the highest level.
It just runs the family a bit.
The problem is that after 3 seasons in Cup, Dillon has never even sniffed victory lane. In more than 100 starts so far, he's only led around 60 laps, most of which were during pit cycles. In terms of pace, he's still well behind the upper echelon of contenders. This stage of development can be crushing for many NASCAR prospects.
Damn.
Who just can't break through that glass ceiling. Luckily, there is a tried and true method for any frustrated Cup driver looking to get their confidence back. They call it bushwhacking, when Cup Series drivers pay a visit to the softer competition of the lower divisions. This is what was happening in the opening sequence of our story, and now it's Austin's turn to continue the cycle. Starting in 2015, he returns to NASCAR's second-tier series on a part-time basis where he reunites with his winning ways. But things take an interesting turn in 2016 where he rediscovers how to win. In a race at Auto Club, he enters the final lap hopelessly behind the two leaders. Yet, shockingly enough, one of them blows a tire and the other runs out of gas, clearing the way for Dylan to steal the victory. Seems like dumb luck, right? Well, not necessarily. In NASCAR, the conventional pathway to victory requires having the fastest car and staying out of trouble. So how do you win without the fastest car?
True.
It turns out you have to use chaos to your advantage. Chaotic events like this are rare, but after enough races, they do happen. And they can be the perfect tool for slower drivers to overcome the odds. Don't believe me? Well, a very similar situation would play out in the 20...
Was that Mossport?
odds. Don't believe me?
Yeah, that's Mossport. Oh, fuck me. I'd be meaning to go up there sometime to go drive on the track myself.
Well, a very...
They call it the Canadian Tire Speedway nowadays, but it's Mossport.
similar situation would play out in the 2016 Cup Series Championship. In the final laps, it looks like Carl Edwards has a clear path to victory until an unexpected caution bunches the field back up. The two leaders then take each other out, allowing Jimmy Johnson to score his 7th Cup title. Under ordinary circumstances, Johnson would have had no business winning this race or the championship. But this is a different sport now. It's awfully ironic that the very driver the system was designed to thwart ended up being the first one to truly exploit it. In the playoff era, chaos is king. It pays to work with it and not against it.
Attaboy. Go white boy go, go white boy go.
Starting in 2017, Austin Dillon began putting this theory into practice. He gets off to a lackluster start to the season. After the first 11 races, he's sitting a dismal 22nd in points.
Ooh, even behind Earnhardt Jr. Damn, Earnhardt is lowest.
But all this time, he's been waiting for an opportunity, and he finally gets one in the longest race of the year, the Coke 600.
Right.
With the laps winding down, Dillon's crew decide to take a gamble, skipping the final pit stop and trying to stretch his fuel to the end. Fuel mileage races aren't too common in NASCAR, but when they do happen, they can flip the field on its head. All of a sudden, drivers who were non-factors all day can find themselves with a real chance to win. With just 2 laps to go, Dillon is running second behind Jimmy Johnson when the 48 car sputters and runs out of gas.
Yep.
Austin Dillon, the new leader, as Jimmy Johnson is out of gas.
That three's got it made. He's down on the bottom, coming around turns 3 and 4.
But he's got to get there. On fumes, Austin Dillon wins at Charlotte for
Attaboy.
Richard Childress Racing. Wow.
Oh, white boy go.
And just like that, the famous number 3 is back in victory lane for the first time since Dale Earnhardt in October of 2000. As a bonus, the win automatically advances Dillon to the 2017 playoffs, which he parlays into a career-best 11th place finish in the standings.
Not bad.
The result completely overshadows what was otherwise a regression in performance for the 3 team, which only scored 4 top 10 finishes all season. I guess winning really does fix everything. As for the playoffs, 2017 did produce its share of chaotic moments, but ultimately led to the most orderly result in the history of the format. Martin Truex Jr. put up one of the most statistically dominant seasons in recent memory. In fact, it's the only season that would have won the title across every points format that NASCAR has run throughout its history. 2017 Martin Truex was the most deserving champion that this system could ever produce, but this notion raises a rather disturbing implication. Thus far, NASCAR has been fortunate to avoid any truly catastrophic results that the playoffs are capable of producing. Guys like Johnson, Busch, and Harvick, while not necessarily the best in their respective championship seasons, were at least plausibly in the title hunt. The playoffs seem to work best when the top contenders are evenly matched. But some seasons, one driver is very clearly the class of the field.
Correct.
The design of the playoffs creates a high risk that these dominant seasons are robbed of the championship. What if, hypothetically, in the winner-take-all finale, Truex had cut a tire, or got a pit road penalty, or simply wasn't the fastest car on track? Would this season have been completely wasted? I suppose we'll just have to cross that bridge when we get there.
Uh-oh.
The 2018 season begins with a bang.
Contact! Elliott! Slam into the wall!
Are you kidding me?
The Daytona 500, known for its long history of chaos, has devolved into a total wreckfest. In this race, the big one strikes not once, not twice, but 3 times.
Oh!
It's one of those
That's
scenarios
good.
where anyone can win. And on the final lap, the black number 3 emerges from out of the pack.
Taps him, kisses him, he's gone.
And here it comes with the number 3, 20 years ago. 20 years of trying for Earnhardt. Austin Dillon wins the 60th running of the Great American Race.
For one night only, the Intimidator returns to Daytona. Some of the sport's best and brightest have agonized over winning this race. When you have the opportunity to do so, you'd better make the most of it. 3 years earlier, Austin Dillon was sitting upside down in a pile of sheet metal at this very track. Today, he returns as its conqueror. You can love him or hate him, but if you didn't get a kick out of seeing the 3 car back on top at Daytona, then you might
And he won the way Dale would have won. It wasn't a side slam, it was the bump tap. It was a bump and run. God damn.
not be human.
It does
On
bring a
another
tear to my
note,
eye.
by securing the Daytona 500 victory, Austin Dillon has automatically qualified for the 2018 playoffs after just a single race.
True.
He can pretty much go on vacation for the next 25 weeks while the rest of the field slugs it out for the remaining spots. As long as he stays above 30th in the standings, he's good to go. You see, the more you learn about the nuances of the playoffs, the less sense it makes. You're telling me that a driver who runs 30th every week gets to compete for a championship just by lucking into a single fluke victory? I swear, the guy who came up with this must have been on drugs.
Oh, yeah, I forgot this happened.
Sir, please step out of the vehicle.
On August 5th, 2018,
Damn
shortly
it.
after the Cup Series race in Watkins Glen, New York, Brian France was arrested for driving while intoxicated. In his possession was
Oxycodone, yeah!
an illegal supply of oxycodone pills. If you set aside the profound embarrassment of a motorsport CEO blowing a .18 while behind the wheel, all of a sudden, many of NASCAR's more recent decisions are starting to make a lot more sense. The full extent of Brian France's drug and alcohol use while running the sport has never been disclosed, and remains the subject of speculation. But in a remarkable turn of events, this fortunate son had actually done enough to lose his spot in the family business.
How the hell did you manage
Following the
that?
arrest, Brian France was suspended indefinitely from all NASCAR operations. He has never returned.
Oh boy.
For as much of a black mark this was on the sport, it provided the sanctioning body with a golden opportunity to hit the reset button, to right the wrongs of the prior administration.
Wouldn't be the biggest black mark in the sport. Ironically, it would come from a half-black man. Bubba Wallace with his Jesse Smollett accusation of a hate crime during the fentanyl Floyd riots. They put a noose in my garage. You claimed a tied-up, organized, double-looped, butterfly-looped, electrical extension cord was a noose. Double butterfly looped, mind you. So it looks like an infinite symbol. Huh. I wonder why. Could it be a possible, we thought at the time dubious, but turns out it was absolute bullshit circumstance of I can't breathe on fentanyl, but it's a cop who's on my neck and I'm screaming. You know, I wouldn't be able to get air if I'm screaming, but I can't breathe. He was having an OD. Chauvin should have administered, should have realized it was an OD situation. How? Because Chauvin did have prior things against him. I know I'm going off topic with political shit, but this that'll be the biggest black mark on recent NASCAR history. Not even this shit.
But NASCAR's age of chaos has only just
a
begun.
small incident.
In fact, it's about to get a whole lot worse. In the 2018 playoffs, Austin Dillon once again gets eliminated in the first round.
Of course he did.
Ultimately comes home 13th in the standings.
Ooh.
But the real focus of this year's championship fight comes down to the driver who will go on to define the playoff era.
Logano.
Flat out just drove straight in the corner and wrecked me.
He's just an idiot.
I'm gonna bust his ass.
He would probably say, short track racing.
And Kenza cleared by Logano. Maybe no. Kenza takes him out. Caution comes out and the crowd roars.
Heading into 2018, Joey Logano was potentially the most robbed driver in recent NASCAR history, putting up championship-level results in 2015 and 2016 only to walk away empty-handed. Nobody really cares about this, however, because Joey Logano is simultaneously the most hated driver in recent NASCAR history.
True.
Fans do not appreciate his squirrely attitude and reckless driving style. Thus far, his quest for a championship has always ended in failure. But in 2018, Logano turns the tables on the field. Starting at Martinsville, he bulldozes Martin Truex for the win, securing a spot in the finale. In the Final Four, he joins Truex, the defending champion, and the two most dominant drivers of the year, who have combined to win nearly half the races on the schedule.
Correct.
Logano beats them all, and presents NASCAR with a bit of a PR disaster. The playoffs had just awarded an undeserved championship to the most hated driver in the sport. If there was ever a time to scrap the system, this was it. It failed to reward either of the two winningest drivers of the year. It failed to drum up any excitement for the championship.
Yeah.
It even failed to tell a good story, because the guy everyone wanted to see crash and burn walked away victorious. The guy who created this whole charade was just kicked out of the sport in disgrace. Now is the moment to pull the plug and end this madness.
We need a hero.
In 2019, NASCAR appoints its new CEO, Jim France. Like a monarchy, the reins have been transferred up the family tree to Brian France's uncle, who is more than happy to maintain the status quo. The playoffs aren't going anywhere.
Damn it.
Fortunately, the 2019 playoffs are far less egregious, as Kyle Busch captures his second championship after another dominant performance. The relative lack of chaos this season could be explained by the absence of Austin Dillon, who suffers a down year, failing to score even a single top 5. The following year, however, chaos returns to NASCAR in a big way. It may be tempting to ridicule NASCAR for its dysfunction, but this problem is hardly unique to stock car racing. Plenty of other things are prone to occasional bouts of dysfunction, like, say, the entirety of civilization. A 20-car pileup at Talladega may seem amusing, but it's a lot less funny when the very same effect happens to the world economy or the healthcare system.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
In NASCAR,
the Kung Flu, the Great Charade, the Great Facade. Oh, God.
we call this the big one, but elsewhere, it goes by a different name. In 2007, risk analyst Nassim Nicholas Taleb would label these phenomena as black swan events. The term seeks to explore our relationship with chaos and how it alters the course of human society. The main idea is that cataclysmic events are far more common than we think, and can pretty much materialize out of nowhere. Just 1 year after The Black Swan was published, the global economy would experience its worst meltdown in nearly a century. The recession that followed has been credited for much of NASCAR's decline, as it struck at the heart of the sport's predominantly blue-collar audience. About a decade later, NASCAR would face a far more direct threat to its business. When the COVID pandemic broke out in early March, the 2020 season appeared to be doomed. Over the years, the current NASCAR administration has made a lot of incompetent choices, but they would end up navigating this unprecedented situation surprisingly well. For a few months, virtual NASCAR briefly becomes the most popular esport in the world,
and it also gives some of the funniest moments, too. Because these are younger guys, mainly in the esports, because they were playing with esports players. So these guys played video games during the golden age. These were like more casual gamer guys. And they were probably playing off-season Modern Warfare in its heyday in 08. So tell me, do you remember the game chats? Because they sure do.
After a lot of maneuvering behind the scenes, teams were back on track just 60 days after the season was put on pause. In fact, NASCAR was momentarily the only active sporting league that people could watch. Any curious onlookers who stuck around afterwards would witness stock car racing at its most bizarre. Somehow, the full 36-race schedule would be completed on time. It involved empty grandstands, double headers, and midweek racing. A set of scenarios that will likely never happen again.
I've returned. Welcome back.
During this time, the
We're now in the middle of the COVID pandemic, apparently.
sport suffers its worst controversy.
So, turns out, the majority of that Bubba Wallace shit was bullshit. Even the photo. The fucking CIA underneath the Biden administration, which they would have benefited from more of this Black Lives Matter shit, even said, sorry, it was not even CIA, FBI, said, there's no way in hell this happened, nor was it even a hate crime. This is when Bubba Wallace pulled a Jussie Smollett. I know EmpLemon's showing the archive thing, but of course the truth didn't get out until later on, unfortunately. Basically, Bubba Wallace pulled a Jussie Smollett. Yeah. Because also look at the date. June 25th, 2020. What was happening during June? That's right. Summer of Love.
Of the 21st century, triggered by nothing more than a simple misunderstanding. It's a chaotic time in NASCAR, and in the middle of it all, Austin Dillon finds himself with another opportunity. In race number 18 at Texas Motor Speedway, the three car spends most of the day running outside the top 10. However, with a handful of laps to go, the team decides to shake up their strategy. By changing only 2 tires on a pit stop, Dillon rockets to the top of the order along with RCR teammate Tyler Reddick. Now, ordinarily, a 2-tire stop is supposed to sacrifice long-term speed for a short-term...
Take a look, black guy hanging himself a hate crime last year. What do you expect? I know. Because everyone wants the next chimp out, don't they? Everyone wants to make it on the next... Because you gotta remember how much those fucking bitches... and I say bitches, that the women that were running BLM fucking... made. The communist women made and ran away with funds with. For the black communities. Yeah, for multiple compounds and mansions. Oh man, what a time to be alive that was. Imagine working with a black girl who was also a white racist. Well, that's just, and it's not even white racism, it's fucking racism. It was racist against whites. I worked with a girl who was like this. Was BLM, racist against whites, try to incite me as a racist, and to prod at me and try to make me kowtow, and I never said anything. Her sister was a good girl, like when I say good girl, was a polite woman, his older sister, and then at the end of it all, I found out that her sister told me, this is a funny story, I was working that day, and her sister comes up to me and we're talking. She's like, you send your sister off to college, university now. How's she doing? It's like, yeah, okay, whatever. I talked to her older sister and I'm like, man, she treated me like shit. She called me a cracker. She said I was a country racist, and I said, yeah, I support Trump. Yeah, I'm a Trump supporter. Whatever, you know, what's the fucking problem? Her sister was chill. Her sister looks at me and she goes, did she seriously did all that shit? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, and she looked at me and she's like, I'm gonna fucking strangle her because the opposite thing at home was being told because she had a massive crush on you. I'm like, this girl that had a crush on me was dark ebony. I'm like, excuse me? It's like, yeah, no. Like, she outright had the hots for you. I'm like, oh. Never ask a race the color of their boyfriend's skin. It's like, you know, if you wanted my attention, it's not hard just to come up to me and say, hey, do you want to go on a date? Sure, I knew politically where I stood, but she also would do stuff outside of political shit to try and get me in trouble. It was basically working with a bunch of high school girls, even though they're all university age and much older than me, because I was in high school at the time, so I was a minor. She was university aged. But they basically change in the open after shift, and I'd have to basically hide myself away so I didn't have to fucking see any of this. I mean, and I say on the open, I mean in the middle of, like, the storage room, which was on main foyer to the back door to get to leave the establishment. And so I'd avoid that. And she also pressed herself against me more often than not, causing multiple injuries on my part, dealing with the mixers and machines. And but basically she would like, oh, you're touching my breast. No, you're squishing your breast against my shoulder. But so yes, it was sexual harassment, but also on the same token too, just fucking say, I think you're hot, you want to go on a date sometime. Or just tell me you like me, and I'm like, okay, then I'll take you, because I'm more than fine with saying it, but of course, wouldn't play mind games, and if it's like a hyper-progressive girl, I'm like, you know, you're not being the nicest to me, right?
Positional gain. But today, conditions are
this is a black GF chud.
In this race,
I want the black
NASCAR's
GF if she's
its
wearing the
dreaded
Africa Corps uniform.
550 horsepower package.
What?
Yet another one of Brian France's pet projects designed to add more chaos to the sport.
God damn it.
Historically, unrestricted NASCAR engines have made between 700 and 900 horsepower.
Yeah.
But starting around 2018, NASCAR began experimenting with the idea of lowering horsepower at intermediate tracks. The plan was to replicate what had succeeded at the super speedways by trying to introduce quasi-pack racing to the smaller circuits. The result, however, was some of the most putrid racing that any motorsport fan
not an Avatar fan, but Phil Zuko
has ever had the displeasure of watching. Cars were essentially running at full throttle all the way around the track, combined with the effects of dirty air, and it was almost impossible for drivers to overtake each other.
Yeah.
Passing ended up being so difficult that tire fall-off was rendered insignificant, which is exactly what Austin Dillon exploited to score his third career win. The Childress cars passed everyone in the pits, and the rest of the field just couldn't get around them.
Yeah, damn.
And with that, Dillon has locked in to yet another edition of the playoffs. Good thing, too, because he ends up missing a race after getting COVID. Following this setback, however, Dillon would actually turn in the best playoff performance of his career, scoring 2 top 5s in the
That's a non-paint job, I will say that.
opening round. He went on to tie his career best points finish of 11th. But through all the chaos of the season, one driver has clearly emerged as the class of the field. In 2020, Kevin Harvick will post an average finish of 7.3 while winning a quarter of the races on the schedule. It is the most championship-worthy season of the playoff era. To top it all off, the championship finale has been moved to Phoenix Raceway, Harvick's best track. Surely, with all this going for him, he must have won the championship, right? Allow me to introduce you to the saddest round in the history of the NASCAR playoffs. This is bearing in mind that in the past year, a playoff driver actually managed to finish dead last in each of the first 3 races. I assure you that what Kevin Harvick is about to experience is far, far worse. With 4 races left in the season, Harvick sits 45 points above the cut line heading into the round of 8. He has this cushion because of the recent addition of playoff points that you can earn throughout the year. designed to offer drivers some modicum of a reward for performing well during the first 26 races. Harvick has dominated the season, so naturally he's earned a lot more than everyone else. In race 33 at Kansas, Harvick looks like he's cruising to yet another win, which would punch his ticket to Phoenix early. However, this is another race with the 550 package. After a late caution, Harvick loses the lead out of the pits and never gets it back.
Damn.
For 42 agonizing laps, he is stuck behind the bumper of Joey Logano, who airblocks his way to the victory. As a result, Logano locks into the final four and jumps Harvick, who now sits 41 points above the cut line. The next race is at Texas. Harvick once again finds himself leading, but makes one little mistake.
Harvick's into the wall.
Ooh.
Tags the outside wall.
With a damaged race car, the best he can muster is a 16th place finish. Despite the setback, he somehow manages to expand his points gap, sitting on a comfortable margin of plus 42 heading into the cutoff race at Martinsville. The following week, however, the car is off the pace. Throughout the day, he loses even more ground on the competition, but still sits in the fourth and final transfer spot.
Come on.
That is until Chase Elliott starts bearing down on the victory. A win for the 9 car would once again jump Harvick in the standings, leaving him as the first driver out. On the final lap, Harvick needs to gain one position to save his season. And with that, the most dominant driver of the year has been reduced to this.
He needs the position.
Oh, Harvick spins the 18.
And Harvick is going to be out of the playoffs.
No shit, he
The
did it
NASCAR
himself. He
playoffs
played
are
himself.
supposed to reward winning. That was the sales pitch. And yet, one of the winningest seasons in recent memory didn't just lose the championship, it didn't even get to compete for the championship.
No!
Possibly the most important part of sports is celebrating excellence. This was the most excellent season of Kevin Harvick's career. It deserved to be remembered. And yet, NASCAR devised a system that made it irrelevant. They took what should have been a historic achievement and turned it into something pathetic. This is the point where the playoffs turn from a failed experiment into something much darker. It wasn't just robbing drivers of titles, it was warping our very understanding of greatness. It was preventing legacies from ever being built. Much of this would be overlooked after Chase Elliott, a fan favorite, walked away with the 2020 championship. It was a feel-good story to end what was a debilitating year for so many people.
True.
But it's hard to look back at this now and honestly tell yourself that the right guy won.
So where's our boy
2021
Dylan?
would produce what remains as the last truly dominant season in the NASCAR Cup Series. Kyle Larson would rack up 10 victories on the year, which thankfully included the final race in Phoenix to collect his first championship.
And a boy.
Another orderly result, and another season where Austin Dillon is suspiciously absent from the
Huh.
playoffs.
How the hell did you get stuck like that?
Funnily enough, he actually puts up the best average finish of his career in 2021, but the system really doesn't care about consistency.
No.
With each passing year, it's becoming more and more obvious to the drivers that it's win or bust.
If you ain't first, you're last.
2022 will only add to this philosophy by
Yeah.
adding yet another layer of chaos. It's the debut of the 7th gen race car, designed to usher in a new age of parity. I suppose NASCAR got tired of all those 8, 9, and 10 win seasons. Gone are the days of teams engineering unstoppable supercars. The next-gen prototype is essentially a spec car made from single-source parts that cannot be modified.
Are you gotta be fucking kidding me? This just ruins all the fun of racing. This ruins all the fun of engineering, all the fun of motorsports. Fuck.
Meaning that every team in the Cup Series is now on a level playing field. The results speak for themselves. 2022 produces 19 unique winners, nearly 60% of the full-time field. And when winning is up for grabs, you'd better believe Austin Dillon is showing up to the party. By the final regular season race, however, 14 of the 16 playoff spots had been locked up, with Dillon still on the outside looking in. Fortunately for him, this race is at Daytona. where, as we've established, pretty much anyone can win. So far, I've talked about a variety of ways that a race at Daytona can devolve into chaos, and this one shall be no different. Today's unraveling will come from one of the oldest forms of chaos in all of nature.
Weather. Oh, butterfly effect.
Can a butterfly flapping its wings in Brazil end up causing showers in Daytona? The weather has always been notoriously difficult to predict.
Yep.
Even with our modern technology, we cannot reliably forecast it more than a few days in advance. This is especially troublesome for NASCAR, which runs all their events outdoors fully exposed to the elements. So what exactly is the problem with stock cars running on a wet surface? Well...
Oh, the car's sideways. All the cars are loose down in the corner.
Yep.
This was the start of the 2001 All-Star race.
Yeah, I remember they're on racing slicks. You ever wonder why your tires have all those grooves and nice little holes in them too? We call the holes sips. They're meant to redirect and transfer water out of the tire tread path. The tread is also designed to carve and spray water outwards, keeping a semi-dry contact surface, so to keep grip during wet conditions. Racing slicks are optimized for pure grip and high speed, but they can't handle any wet condition because they're just meant to run on dry, warm surfaces.
Just as the green flag flew, rain began to douse the track. Many drivers couldn't make it through a single corner. It was a pretty embarrassing mishap for NASCAR race control, who were supposed to stop the race ahead of time to prevent this exact situation from happening. Needless to say, they certainly learned their lesson, ensuring that a fiasco like this would never happen again. Until 21 years later. This time, the field was entering the corner at full speed. The results went about as well as you'd expect.
Oh, into the wall they go. The 11 now also caught up in it.
Oh my God.
No, because I'm not a retarded woman.
Guys, there were a lot of drivers saying, hey, it's raining. Why are we racing right now?
Almost the entire pack gets wadded up in the outside wall. Almost the entire pack. Because look who shoots through to the other side.
The 3 of Austin Dillon squeezes through. He is in front. And look at virtually the only car to clear it.
Austin Dillon is then able to hold off the rest of the stragglers and claim his 4th Cup Series victory.
Thank you, Jesus, baby!
Nice.
Okay, I'll admit it. This has got to be the most undeserving win he's had so far. As if Moses parting the Red Sea wasn't fortunate enough, Austin Dillon only had to get around one guy down the stretch, and he just booted them out of the way, not even attempting a clean pass. By now, the novelty of this whole routine has worn off, and fans are starting to get annoyed by the hijinks. To add to the frustration, the win knocks Martin Truex out of the playoffs.
Damn.
The driver who had scored the 4th most points all season would not get to compete for the championship. Dillon hadn't just swindled a race win, he swindled a playoff spot from a far more deserving contender. To be fair, he would go on to another 11th place points finish, so it's not like he was a waste of space out there. But something felt wrong about one fluke win wiping out a whole season of consistent finishes. I guess modern NASCAR really is a dog-eat-dog world. 2022 was also notable for Austin Dillon in another way, because...
Give him a movie or a TV series. Oh, fuck, it's a reality show. Anyways, of course, every essay is gonna need a Persona OST added to it.
This is the year he gets to star in his very own reality TV show.
Are you fucking kidding me? Just like Formula One.
Despite airing on a major cable network just a few years ago, TV show. Despite airing
White boy got some motion. He got the black GF.
on a major cable network just a few years ago, most of the world seems to have forgotten that this thing ever existed.
Because reality TV is only is consumed and gobbled up by normies, but they'll forget about it within a couple months. How popular was Tiger King, if you can remember that? Does anybody quote Tiger King anymore? People stopped quoting Tiger King after a couple months. Not P5. Yeah, it's always gonna be P5. Think of 90 Day Fiance. Think of like Ed, the mayonnaise guy. Forgot about him too. What other ones can you think of? I can think of a few. I can think of like a few series that just were big hot shit. And right now, what is it? It's now the reality show's gone on to romance, like, you know, Romance Island, or like Lover, whatever the fuck they call it, like Lover's Island or some shit. And normies are gobbling that shit up. And you had MILF Manor for a circumstance, which is degenerate, but it's like, okay, right? It was shock value, but people gobbled it up and then forgot about its existence. It's become memory hold. I can never escape that OC wherever I go on YouTube. Exactly. Then again, Persona OSTs would work well for video essays because it's a very approachable game that they'll never play, by the way. They'll just watch a video on it and just gobble the OST from it. I have a lot of Persona OST songs on my stored mixtape list, but it's mainly mashups because a lot of Persona music can go well with a lot of songs. I played a few on stream before, but it's just... every essay's got to have Persona.
It's one of the few modern shows I've ever encountered that does not have a Wikipedia page.
What?
Its reviews are abysmal, and the whole thing was cancelled after just 10 episodes. There is a remote possibility that I am the only person who has laid eyes on this programming over a span of years. So, does Austin Dillon's life in the fast lane deserve to be left behind in the past? Well, if you're looking for insight into his NASCAR career, then this isn't for you. It's more of a lifestyle show designed for what I...
like that when I've actually played the games, exactly. And I'm playing the game on stream too. I'm starting on P5 and working my way down. But I'm enjoying it. I've been enjoying it. But I just had a hiatus off for about a week.
Called the bored housewife demographic. The series mostly follows Austin, his best friend.
Yep, gotta get shirtless photos and a lot of family photos. Yep, it's for the housewives.
And their 2 wives, with a little bit of racing sprinkled in. In spite of his chaotic reputation on the track, his domestic life is quite uneventful, and well,
no shit. He's he's really well, he's not an upper middle class, he's fucking wealthy. He's a wealthy family man. Hot wife, yes, hot southern trophy wife, but he's got kids. And this may have been popular during the height of of the novelty of reality shows back in the 2000s. But remember, reality shows work on shock and drivel as opposed to, you know, a stable life. The only reality, I guess, I'm not even sure it's a reality show, but the only reality show I ever watched, if you can consider a reality show, was Cops. But Cops isn't even a reality show to begin with. It's based on reality. It has all the drivel, it has all the degeneracy of a reality show, but it's not put on. It's not a celebrity, a cool niche people. It's riding with law enforcement. And now I get to watch that through body cam photo videos, thanks to the Democrats, because they started to play that, hey, yeah, cops are so corrupt, we need to put on the body cams. Tell me how that turned out for you.
Found myself mostly being bored watching it, which is a shame, because I believe there is so much more to Austin Dillon than what the show provides. I feel like the producers missed what actually makes him interesting, choosing instead to fill the airtime with a bunch of frivolous gimmicks.
Yeah.
Like most reality shows, it has to rely on a bunch of manufactured drama.
Exactly.
Which, funnily enough,
which is what's killing Formula One.
Makes it just like modern NASCAR.
And modern NASCAR.
When everyone's super, no one will be. With the combination of the new playoff system and a new car, NASCAR successfully managed to litigate dominance out of the sport. In 2022, no driver would score an average finish better than 12th. Parity had been achieved. But was it something that NASCAR even needed? Pretty much every other sport has their own debate over competitive balance.
True.
And while no one wants to feel like their favorite team or players in a hopeless situation...
Couch. Okay, that's kind of funny.
situation. It's hard to deny that juggernauts make sports compelling. You don't get to tell David's story without Goliath, and oftentimes, dynasties are required to elevate the prestige of what everyone else is fighting for. When each contender is so evenly matched, it makes the champion feel kind of arbitrary. But hey, this new age of parity must surely help elevate new and exciting stars. Yet, despite half the field ending up in victory lane throughout the year, the championship still ended up going to a familiar face.
Hey Joey, you can save money if you fill up at Shell if you use Advanced Auto Parts Speed Perks.
Dude, I'm way ahead of you.
Logano is a two-time NASCAR Cup Series champion.
Yeah, I saved at the pump.
Yep.
The 2023 season was more of the same, with no driver really separating themselves from the pack. At least this year produced a unique champion in Ryan Blaney, although his average finish of 14.1
Actually, was 2023 the year that the wall run happened?
Was now the worst of any champion in Cup Series history. 2023 would also be the worst season by far for Austin Dillon. It's just one of those years where absolutely nothing goes right. He finishes with 0 wins and 10 DNFs. To add insult to injury, a 60-point penalty drops him down to 29th in the standings. Maybe this is a sign that Austin's luck has...
Which is why sports fucking gay now. Oh, yeah. It's meant... Sports has always been for the layman, but it's now... They're making it for a demographic of people. It's going into a racial territory, and I should probably restrain myself from going further. Basically, the talented skills doctors and engineers are the same IQ level as what they're appealing for with this stuff. Making it more like a Mr. Beast video as opposed to motorsports, because that's the type of people who suck up that drivel.
Run out. Or in other words, his best years are behind him. He's getting older now, and rumors of retirement begin looming on the horizon. And that brings us to 2024. If you like chaos, then this is the season for you.
Is it now?
I describe it as if an entire calendar year of NASCAR was directed by the Joker. There are things that happen in this season that you literally have to see to believe. It's a
What the fuck? It actually happened.
Coaster of sensational highs and devastating lows, all leading to something so outrageous that the sport as we knew it would never be the same. But before we get there, somebody should probably wake up Austin Dillon and remind him that the season has started. It looks like the nightmare from last year has only gotten worse. By the middle of July, the 3 team is sitting a disgraceful 32nd in the standings. But in the following race at Richmond, an extraordinary development starts to take shape. For the first time in his entire Cup Series career thus far, Austin Dillon has race-winning speed. As the laps tick down, he slowly but surely works his way up the order. With just 28 to go, he makes the pass for the lead and starts to pull away. This is an unprecedented situation. Austin Dillon is about to win a race straight up, without any gimmicks or shenanigans. It's actually happening. He's in the clear.
Wow.
All he has to do is get to the line before...
Whoa!
No.
And the caution's going to come out right there with under 2 laps remaining.
Oh my god. You didn't seriously believe it would be that simple, did you? Not with this driver, not in this sport. You see, in the modern chaos era of NASCAR, most of our frustration has been justifiably directed at the championship format.
True.
But something that I think gets severely overlooked is the overtime rule. In almost every other motorsport, if a caution comes out near the end of the race, it's just over. The cars pace to the advertised distance and the race ends.
Oh my god.
This is how NASCAR used to work in a far more simple and civilized time. It was the rule when Dale Earnhardt won the Daytona 500. You know, the most iconic moment in the history of the sport? But as NASCAR fans, we took a look at this and decided that it wasn't chaotic enough. Why should a race have to end under caution? Why not just rack him back up and keep trying until, by God, we get the green flag finish we deserve? And so, starting in the Brian France era, NASCAR implemented the green-white checker policy, which is now known as overtime, a name that, just like the playoffs, doesn't even make sense in a motorsport. Both of these things are just two peas from the same rotten pod, and yet one gets way more backlash than the other. This is why I'm making the argument that if you're disgusted by the NASCAR playoffs, you should also direct part of that scorn towards NASCAR overtime, because they essentially accomplish the same thing, wiping out the lead of a deserving winner and setting up a crapshoot run to the finish. I'll admit that on occasion, this policy has given us some fun moments here and there, but I'll go out on a limb and say that a majority of overtime finishes contribute to a worse outcome than simply ending the race under caution. If you want an example, look no further than what happened just one race before this current one. The 2024 Brickyard 400 was setting up for a memorable finish, with veteran Brad Keselowski stretching his fuel and holding off two hard-charging cars behind him. But with just 6 miles left, there's a crash, so that means that we run past the scheduled distance and restart the race. Brad runs out of fuel, so he's forced to pit, setting up this confusing and unnecessary restart lane controversy. But before we can even address that, the field can't even make it through one corner without causing a gigantic crash.
Are you kidding me?
A common side effect of the double file restart policy that was also enacted under Brian France. There's so much debris on the track that it takes half an hour to clean up. So long, in fact, that the race exceeds its televised time slot, and the broadcast has to be booted over to cable, meaning that most viewers at home never even got to see the finish. Oh, and what was the finish, you may ask? Well, Kyle Larson just drove away completely unopposed, and the race ended under caution anyway after another guy wrecked and stalled out on the track. The race ended under caution anyway. You know, the exact scenario that overtime is supposed to prevent in the first place? Now tell me, was all of this seriously a better outcome than if they just let Brad Keselowski coast to the line at the scheduled distance?
No.
Was it really worth it to crash all these cars and waste all this time? Seriously, can someone explain to me what the point of any of this is? And we're just gonna do the same thing the very next week.
USA, fuck off, exactly. Fuck off on any cable. Fuck off the internet. Fuck off with trying to make the internet cable, too.
Did I ever tell you the definition of insanity?
It would have been such a nice story for Dylan to finally earn a victory after a year and a half of struggle. But now, we don't get to see that. It was ruined so we can watch Hamlin or Logano win for the millionth time.
Wow.
So you know what? Fuck him.
There's the contact! He does get to it!
Attaboy!
On the inside, he gets into the wall!
Attaboy!
Gonna win it at the line!
Fucking A!
No, break in! Come on! Break in!
And he just pulls a chicken shit move. He's a piece of crap. The kid, he sucks. He's sucked his whole career.
Pop's proud of you, bud.
The fact the old man's still kicking.
This just might be the dumbest thing that's ever happened on a NASCAR track. When people imagine a bunch of dumb rednecks driving in circles, this is probably what they picture in their heads. Fans were understandably pissed. They called Austin Dillon gutless. They said he embarrassed the whole sport. But guess what? When you design a championship system that actively invites stupidity, don't be surprised when it actually shows up.
Yep.
What Austin Dillon did at the end of this race wasn't just awesome. I'd argue it was completely justifiable.
You know what? I love how Richards from the old days of NASCAR, he worked with Dale. Dale was a dirty driver too, but Dale was fun dirty. In the prim and polished version of NASCAR, that style is considered super dirty and cheating. He's from an old crowd, and I fucking love Pop going, yeah, boy!
Often lost in the spectacle of racing is that each of these cars is not a one-man show. There are dozens of people below the line that make it all possible. Winning and making the playoffs isn't just some vanity project for the driver. It unlocks millions of dollars in prize money that helps pay for all these hard workers. For the past 18 months, the 3 team has been enduring miserable results despite their best efforts. Austin Dillon sees these people depending on him every day, And on top of that, he's not getting any younger himself. For all he knows, this may be the last shot at glory he's ever gonna get. But come on now, does all of this really make it justifiable to intentionally crash two opponents for the win? Everyone wants to win, obviously, but you have to at least do so under a basic system of etiquette. And my response to that is, why should he?
The real praise his father's ever given. Yep.
Because if we're being honest with ourselves, NASCAR's age of etiquette went away a long time ago. The modern sanctioning body has pretty much always maintained a hands-off approach when policing intentional contact. It's a well-known fact at this point that you can purposely wreck someone for the win and not be punished for it. The two victims of tonight have been guilty of this, Dylan himself has been guilty of this, so why not push things even further? The best case scenario is that they just let it slide like everything else. But, unfortunately, Austin Dillon had crossed an invisible line in the sand. A few days later, NASCAR announces that the 3 team will not be granted a playoff berth from this stunt.
And why were they not granted a playoff team? Was it the fans were so grumpy? No, it wasn't the fans, it was the bitching of some drivers.
It goes down in the record books as an encumbered victory, which is usually reserved for cars that get caught breaking the rules or failing post-race inspection. But the hilarious thing about all of this is that I don't believe Austin Dillon actually broke any rules here.
No.
I think what he did was so outlandish that no one thought to make a rule for it, and that NASCAR simply invented one after the fact specifically to punish him. Of course, the sanctioning body keeps their rulebook a secret, so we'll never know if this was the case. But with the ruling, Austin Dillon was condemned to maintain a 32nd place points finish. So, does that mean that this grand gesture was all for nothing? Well, in an odd way, I think that when you look at the bigger picture, this whole affair was a win for the sport. For a reason that was actually hiding in plain sight.
What did he do?
Because, for the first time in God knows how long, NASCAR's leadership were forced to backtrack. Dillon's antics had essentially caused them to expose their own hypocrisy. Welcome to the playoffs, where anyone has a chance because it's win and you're in. But not like that. All of a sudden, there was a moment that was too chaotic for the sport that loves chaos in the midst of their most chaotic season in history. It sounds like such a small thing, but this incident planted a seed in the minds of both the fans and the folks in charge. At a moment when it feels like change is impossible, you'd be surprised how quickly it can all unravel. For 10 years now, the playoffs have been sabotaging drivers. The time has finally come to sabotage the playoffs.
Beautiful.
To make this happen, we're gonna need someone to pull off the greatest troll job in NASCAR history. Someone who's not afraid of being hated. Someone who has plenty of experience with pissing off the fan base. We need an anti-hero.
And then he's gonna go up there and thank God and praise everything with his baby. It's a bunch of BS. It's not even freaking close.
Did I ever tell you about the legend of Even Year Logano? If you've been paying close attention, you may have noticed that since the very beginning of the playoffs, Joey Logano has made it to the finals every year that ends in an even number. During this streak, when he's not taking the title for himself, he often plays a major part in deciding the winner. You may also notice that 2024 is another even-numbered year. But halfway through the season, it looks like the streak is in jeopardy, because Logano has been running way off the pace. Don't worry though, because this is all according to plan. Think about it this way. If you could invent a scenario that would most totally destroy the credibility of these NASCAR playoffs, how would you do it? Well, we've already seen what it's like when the system robs an elite driver of a deserved championship. This is pretty bad, but it's still not the worst case scenario. No, that would be if the system rewards a mediocre driver with an undeserved championship. For instance, did you know that in the NASCAR playoffs, it's possible to win the title even after finishing dead last in 31 of the 36 events?
How?
This hypothetical was only made possible in the last few years after they removed the 30th place minimum entry requirement, and it's simply astounding. Let's say for the first 25 races of the year, you show up each week and park your car after just one lap, scoring 25 last place finishes. In race 26, you win, locking yourself into the playoffs despite sitting dead last in the standings. Now just repeat these same steps in each of the 3 rounds of the playoffs, finishing dead last twice and winning once, and congratulations! You have now advanced to the Final 4. And for the cherry on top, in the championship race, all you have to do is finish ahead of the other 3 contenders.
Of course
and
you
the
do.
sport of NASCAR, under this current rule set, would be forced to recognize you.
Why do you have the Stig there? And of course, this is very modern Top Gear. This is not the old Top Gear Stig. I don't think the Stig's a problem, I'm just saying, like, fucking Top Gear sucks nowadays.
As the champion. In 2024, Joey Logano is about to do the closest thing possible to this. In what was otherwise a middling regular season, he wins precisely once. He does this in the dumbest way possible. After an unprecedented 5 overtime clown show sends the race so far past its scheduled distance that the leaders start running out of fuel. This allows Logano to swoop in and steal the victory after being out of contention all day. Step 1 complete. Now it's on to round 1 of the playoffs. Here, he wastes no time and edges out another victory at Atlanta, which has recently been reconfigured into NASCAR's 3rd superspeedway, to add more chaos, of course. On to round 2, where Logano appears to hit a bit of a snag. He's banking on winning at Talladega, which he gets close to doing before getting taken out by the big one. He finishes way back in 33rd, falling so far in the standings that the next week, he gets eliminated from the playoffs.
Unfortunately, the 2-time series champion does not have an opportunity to be a 3-time champ. Their playoffs run ends right now.
Oh, it's so fucking over.
Of course, is all according to plan. Because a few hours later, Alex Bowman, the face of disappointment, gets disqualified in post-race inspection. The ruling drops him out of the next round and puts Logano back in.
Would you look at that?
Next week, he stretches his fuel to barely squeak out a victory at Las Vegas, moving him all the way up to the championship race.
God damn it.
Now, this is the part of the mission where it's imperative that our secret agent is a hated driver. Because despite the sheer amount of stupidity it's taken to get to this step, there is still a risk of fans starting to rally around the situation as some kind of Cinderella run.
Right.
Fortunately, Logano is not some plucky underdog from the back of the pack. He spent plenty of time hogging the spotlight and is someone the fans will surely be disgusted to see win. In fact, the very idea of this seems to whip the rest of the sport into a frenzy. With only 3 spots in the championship remaining, the rest of the field enters desperation mode. Tyler Reddick, who just a week before was sent tumbling upside down, clinches the next spot with a win at Homestead. The following week, Ryan Blaney secures the 3rd spot at Martinsville, but behind him, the chase for the championship turns ugly. This game of musical chairs has left only 1 spot up for grabs, and the teams who end up fighting for it happen to be the 2 most powerful organizations in NASCAR. The loser will be left out of the championship entirely. Because of this, the race devolves into a truly dark moment for the sport. It features obvious signs of collusion and team orders at a manufacturer level. There is enough evidence to disqualify both drivers involved in the dispute, but NASCAR ultimately disregards the whole situation, choosing instead to move Christopher Bell out on a technicality. The very legitimacy of the sport was melting down right in front of us, but at the end of the day, all the mayhem, manipulation, and bad blood didn't end up mattering. While everyone else was at each other's throats, the yellow 22 car simply drove off into the sunset.
Oh, fuck's sake.
History! He's a 3-time Cup Series champion!
This, today, is one of the worst days that I've had in a long time!
Is it okay that I feel like I don't want to live anymore?
Yes, Bobby, that's normal.
This chicanery? Are you telling me that a man just happens to fall like that? No, he orchestrated it. What a sick joke!
You let it happen.
Alan, we are so fucked.
Oh, I'm gonna miss my friends.
Well, in the words of Yogi Berra, it's deja vu all over again. Joey Logano wins the 2024 championship with an average finish of 17th. Over all 36 races, 11 other drivers scored more points than him.
No shit.
In fact, the 3 drivers who scored the most points all season didn't even get to compete for the championship.
What?
And that's not all. By winning the title 2 of the last 3 years, Joey Logano has put together the makings of a playoffs dynasty. After all this time spent trying to inject more chaos into the sport, order still found a way to emerge on the other side. How did they do it? The same way Jimmy Johnson did it all those years ago. When you crown a champion at the same track every year, all you have to do is invest your resources in that one track. Logano and Penske Motorsports figured out that if you're the fastest at Phoenix, you're pretty much guaranteed a championship as long as you make it there, which, with a little bit of luck, isn't that
I still only have 2 more EP till it's over. 2 more episodes till it's over. Yeah, I heard that too. I heard that too. I hope Zach and his I forget the other guy. I hope they go on a bang. They said they don't feel like they can create any more for the series. I'm happy they're going out on a high note. Remember, the Boondocks had 3 incredible seasons and 1 mediocre season. Boondocks is still, those first 3 seasons are still heavily quoted today.
hard to do? The playoffs had been solved, which meant that they were now broken beyond repair. No one knew what this meant for the future of the sport. But if one thing's for sure, this is the moment that Joey Logano became Heisenberg.
This is gay shit.
You can't keep getting away with it!
Yeah, I saved at the pump.
All the way back in the 2016 finale, when Carl Edwards' dreams of a championship evaporated after it looked like victory was assured, he stepped out of his car, left the track, and never raced again. The chaos had simply become too much for him. For years, I never understood how a driver in their prime could walk away from all that fame and fortune. But now, I get it. Because in the 2024 season, the chaos became too much for me. And I'm someone who happens to like chaos. It makes for a good story. But this season of NASCAR racing really made me question whether I still should. In fact, I started wondering how any human being is supposed to feel about chaos. Conventional wisdom seems to offer us mixed messages. Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's evil. The Dungeons & Dragons alignment chart places chaos on its own axis entirely. Plenty of religious texts consider disorder to be an enemy of mankind, while others believe that it's an essential part of life itself. In modern fiction, chaos is typically associated with villains, but it may also be a heroic attribute if law and order become too oppressive. When we examine our own lives, chaos is usually bad news for organized societies, often leading to the collapse of the stock market and, in extreme cases, the population. But even with that in mind, there is something undeniably tempting about spontaneous events.
Well, what are you waiting for?
I don't know. Something amazing, I guess.
Me too.
Perhaps we can learn to appreciate them, because there may come a day when chaos becomes a thing of the past. One of the leading theories in thermodynamics spells out the eventual heat death of the universe, where all matter and energy will break down into an endless soup of nothingness. In this final state of maximum entropy, chaos as we know it would cease to exist. The universe would remain at rest, unchanging, for eternity. This is all to suggest that chaos may ultimately become the most destructive force we know. It can even destroy itself. Midway through the 2025 season, NASCAR announced that the playoff format had reached its merciful end.
That does make me question, though, about the death of the universe, though, is that if we're going by the factor of chaos, you say chaos can destroy itself, but chaos could also save itself through its own chaotic nature. Wouldn't that also entail the idea that the universe could also be circumnavigated because of chaos's own, I guess, for lack of better words, chaotic nature? It's always been an X factor, so who knows?
And after 12 years of chaos and 12 years...
It's what we understand right now, and it's through hardline science, because we know science rapidly evolves and changes, and what's yesterday's theory and knowledge Could be tomorrow's falsehoods of the past.
Years of frustration, the sport is finally embracing order once again. The new system will scrap the winner-take-all finale and place more emphasis on consistent finishes. Due to contractual obligations, the changes were set to go into effect starting in the 2026 season. This meant that 2025 was now the last hurrah for NASCAR's Age of Insanity. Hopefully that means that the worst is behind us. All that was left to do is run out the clock and pray that nothing else stupid happens. So you know what? To commemorate the end of an era, let's take a break from all the existential dread and have some fun.
This is fun. We're having fun.
Did you know that Austin Dillon has a brother?
Ty Dillon.
Despite following in Austin's footsteps, Ty Dillon could never really step out of his older brother's shadow. He won less, finished worse, and struggled to accomplish much of anything. After 7 seasons in Cup, he could only muster up a handful of top 10s, spending most of his career as a journeyman for backmarker teams. In 2024, spending most of his career...
Seriously? Black Rifle Company? Coffee Company? And fuck them. Claim your Second Amendment, but you're just, oh man, culture. No, I'm not going to support people who are actually Second Amendment. Fuck off.
As a journeyman for backmarker teams.
What was that? Raise Energy? Never heard of Raise Energy.
In 2024, he was demoted to the Truck Series and couldn't even put up good results there.
Damn.
But just when it looked like he was on his way out of the sport, opportunity came calling. A Cup seat had opened up for the 2025 season, giving Ty one more chance to compete at the highest level. Of course, he immediately went back to being an afterthought. That is, until the beginning of NASCAR's inaugural in-season tournament. I know, it sounds like yet another...
Yeah, Black Rifle is for... otherless behavior.
Insipid gimmick, but with no real championship implications, it really is just a fun sideshow to keep fans entertained during the dog days of summer. Anyway, the tournament bracket features 32 drivers, and Ty Dillon just barely makes the cut as
it's unlike the prior one, now it's a round robin.
32nd seed. In the first round, he gets matched up against the points leader Denny Hamlin. Clearly, he has no shot of beating him, right? Well, not so fast. The first round takes place at Atlanta, which you'll recall is now a super speedway, which tend to trigger the big one, which ends up happening and collecting Denny Hamlin. Ty, on the other hand, scores his lone top 10 of the season and advances to the second round. The following week, his opponent once again gets caught up in an early pileup.
You remember too, NASCAR started adding road courses and in different types of circuits into their system, so... Yeah, now drivers have to turn right instead of just going left, so it's been a lot more interesting.
Allowing Ty to cruise to the quarterfinals. The week after that, he just barely edges out.
Because, not really, kind of like a small trend, but Australian V8 supercar racing being very popular in motorsports in the United States, too. And they actually exported one of their drivers here to race in Chicago on the road track. Which was an interesting race to see, even though Chicago's kind of a shithole. Where they chose to race is a beautiful course. And I feel like V8 road racing should become its own thing. Because it technically was with Mosport and a couple other courses. But it should really come back as a road course. Kind of like how Indy does it in Toronto with the road track.
His next opponent to reach the Final Four. The week after that, the same exact thing happens. And all of a sudden, the lowest ranked driver in the entire tournament has advanced to the finals. He comes so close to winning the whole thing, too, only needing to finish above 21st. But at the end of the road, the glass slipper finally broke for Ty Dillon. Coincidentally, the winner happens to be another racing grandson named Ty, leaving our hero to wonder what could have been. He didn't get a fairy tale ending, but for a brief window of time, Ty Dillon was the talk of the NASCAR world, seizing every opportunity in a way that only a Childress could. I tried to tell you that chaos runs in this family. Speaking of which, how did the other Dillon brother perform in 2025? Well, after moving past the whole collusion deal from last season, Austin Dillon pretty much went back to business as usual. Just a few weeks until the playoffs, he's found himself right at home, sitting 28th in the standings. That's when he pays another visit to Richmond Raceway, a year removed from the one that sort of got away. By now, Austin Dillon has won races in just about every unexpected way imaginable. It's gotten to the point where the most surprising thing he could do is score a good old-fashioned, straightforward, ordinary victory.
And he does.
And by now, you've probably figured out that Austin Dillon is full of surprises.
Last year, it was controversy right here, where there was contact with Joey Logano, contact with Denny Hamlin. There's no contact this year. It's all Austin Dillon. He's going to the playoffs.
Let's go, baby! It's your daddy. Let's go!
It wouldn't be the swan song of the playoffs without Austin Dillon randomly locking up a spot with a win that no one on Earth could have predicted. And this time, he gets to keep it. So now, all that's left to do is run through the playoffs one last time. Maybe after all the turmoil this format has caused, it can at least bow out of the sport gracefully. And well, let's just say that everyone was reminded of why they were glad to see it go.
Oh boy.
Championship weekend of 2025 would prove to be the most tumultuous in NASCAR history. The absurdity of these playoffs would fully metastasize in all three series across 3 days of pure psychosis. Thus far, I've neglected to mention how the playoffs have warped NASCAR's lower divisions. We've missed out on such gems as a Truck Series driver becoming champion with 0 wins, and an Xfinity Series driver becoming champion after winning for the very first time. But rest assured, both of these series have saved the best for last. So let's start with the Truck Series. Corey Heim has just put up the most dominant season in its 30-year history. He enters the finale having won 11 of the 24 races. He has led more than 40% of the laps on the entire schedule.
Jeez.
His 3 opponents in the final 4 have combined for 1 victory between them. This is the NASCAR equivalent of a hydrogen bomb versus 3 coughing babies. Under any reasonable format, Heim would have locked up the championship weeks ago. But as we know, the NASCAR playoffs may put his entire season in jeopardy. So everyone is left to hold their breath and pray that the guy we all know deserves the championship actually gets to win it. He comes so close to getting screwed over by late race shenanigans. But after making a 7-wide pass on the final restart, Corey Heim got to walk away with the championship that he already earned long ago.
Good.
The following night, Connor Zilisch wasn't so lucky. He entered the Xfinity Series finale with 10 victories.
Look at this goofy little smile, yeah, it's just a happy little guy.
Than double any other driver in the field. At one point during the season, he put together a stretch of 18 consecutive top 5 finishes. He has accomplished all of this before his 20th birthday.
What? Okay, good on him. Now I feel like I've wasted my life.
Which may very well be the most talented NASCAR prospect we have ever seen. But the playoffs do not care about who you are and what you've done. With just 25 laps to go, he falls out of the lead and never gets it back. He loses the championship to the Richard Childress racing car of Jesse Love, who only won a single other race all season. The crew chief for this car is Danny Stockman, who 12 years earlier was atop the pit box for Austin Dillon's 0-win championship in this same series. After the defeat, Connor Zilisch stepped out of his car, sat down, and sobbed. Every sport is always looking to create new stars. Zilisch deserved to be celebrated as one of NASCAR's brightest, and the playoffs just snuffed him out. By Sunday's Cup Series finale, everyone is just ready to move on. Forget all the exhausting arguments about fairness and legitimacy. All we want out of the playoffs at this point is a feel-good moment. Can they at least deliver us that much? This season in Cup, there's no dominant title favorite, but in this race, there is a sentimental favorite. Denny Hamlin is NASCAR's most decorated driver who has never won the championship. His father has fallen terminally ill and will not live to see him try again next year. The race that follows is plagued by chaos. The tire compound is too soft, causing numerous blowouts throughout the day. No one is safe, not even the championship contenders. But through all of this, Hamlin stays the course. He dominates the race, leading 208 of the 319 laps.
Dylan's to come out of here.
With 4 laps to go, he is riding off into the sunset. The wheel for Denny Hamlin is still and perfect. And then...
Oh boy! William Byron has a tire issue and the caution is out!
Did I ever tell you the definition of insanity?
While sitting in the cockpit after watching it all go to shit, the 44-year-old Hamlin simply gazed forward with tears in his eyes. It doesn't matter how old you are, the feeling never gets any less painful.
No. You can hear it! You can hear it! In a stream if you hate yourself.
Do you ever wonder if back in 2006, Brian France watched the end of the movie Cars while possibly drunk or high, and decided to make that the official championship format of the
You got this animated too? That's
biggest
awesome.
motorsport in America? Because I really have no other explanation for why anyone thought this was a good idea. How could we not see any of this coming? In a sport where this is possible, we're gonna decide our champions within one single race? What were we thinking? How could any of us be this stupid? The NASCAR playoffs have left behind a legacy of fire and fury, not unlike what General Sherman left behind after his march to the sea. 8 out of 12 times it failed to reward the driver who scored the most points. 9 out of 12 times it failed to reward the driver who won the most races. 10 out of 12 times it failed to reward the driver with the best average finish. If we weren't crowning champions based on any of these metrics, then what exactly have we been doing this whole time? NASCAR just spent more than a decade rigging the sport so that the best driver usually wasn't the champion. This is not just dysfunction, it's malpractice. And now I come to find out that this mental sickness is somehow infesting other motorsports. Why?
What?
So we can keep mental sickness?
No. No, 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 no. God fucking damn it! I gotta call on the level. My Australian bro is gonna be fucking pissed. Oh, God.
This is somehow infesting other motorsports. Why? So we can keep manufacturing more of these bogus Game 7 moments? For my entire life, I've never understood this misguided obsession with making auto racing more like other sports. When I first started watching NASCAR at the age of 8, I didn't choose to become a fan because it reminded me of football or baseball or basketball. I watched NASCAR because it was unique. There was nothing else like it. The Book of Genesis describes the origin of mankind's descent into chaos when Adam and Eve picked the forbidden apple and were expelled from the Garden of Eden. They already had everything they needed, but they still wanted more. They wanted to be something else. NASCAR is located squarely in the middle of the Bible
On the
Belt.
flawless
You'd think
victory
that
for
they, of all
Hyperborean
people,
space stoners.
Thank you for subscribing. Thank you.
heeded the warning, but no, they still made the mistake of picking the apple.
The format is one thing, right? But playoffs, I think we're not going to go away from playoffs.
The folks in charge then spent the next decade figuring out why anything resembling playoffs doesn't belong in motorsports. You didn't need to waste 12 years to understand this. All you had to do was look at the word itself to know that it doesn't fit.
It's all so
This January,
exhausting.
NASCAR announced the new championship format, which looks to be a rehash of the chase for the Cup. For many fans, it wasn't enough. The excessive chaos of the past decade has contributed to a groundswell of support for the traditional order of the original full-season points format.
So after over a decade wasted, we go back to what worked the wheel?
In terms of returning to order, the new system is at least a step in the right direction. But even now, after everything that's happened, NASCAR's executives have expressed a hesitancy to abandon chaos. They are still terrified of allowing the sport to be judged on its own merits.
The traditional way of doing points would be tough to do in this era.
because we are looking towards a younger group of people. Somebody's winning the point series by 487 points. Like, I mean, that ain't exciting to the young guy. So we got to make it exciting. And our attention.
This is a Gen Xer, late boomer, telling you, the young person, what you want, what you find exciting. You don't know why a lot of younger Gen Z go conservative, like men go conservative, the young guys, you say? You know why a lot of us are harping for the old days of America? We hearken for the old times because it was better. Everything, and even going down something as trivial as motorsports, was better.
Fans, my social media guy says, remember, Chris, 30 seconds long, not 4 hours, 30 seconds. Yes, sir.
You know what I also blame this whole minimize attention span problem on? It is having an effect on the younger generations too. But I noticed in particular, the slop content, the rapid quick content, the 30-second clip content, all the short content. You know who's it for and who it excels by? Third worlders. You ever see infotainment, media, anything of the sort from India or from the Middle East or from Southeast Asia for the most part? It's rapid, quick, nonsensical, happy, chirpy, quirky, big noises, lots of sounds, chipmunk noise, all sorts of weird shit. All sorts of weird shit. It's because when you have a population of lower intelligence, they are more entertained by jingling keys than by anything that has stimulation, proper stimulation, and thought provocation. It is not granted through that low stimuli content, but and a lower IQ demographic will take that schlock in, and they are trying to, and that was double tapped onto younger generations. We're told we're blamed for this, but really it's companies appealing to a lesser demographic. Think about this too. When the internet was mostly majority accessible, only in Western and East Asian nations, majority-wise, and some South American nations, but it wasn't the whole majority population of South America. Or it was only small portions of India, too. It was contained. It was less. The saturation, the stupidity, fucking hell. The drivel is from appealing to lower common demographics. And that all starts with the rapid acceleration of the internet being accessible to the third world. And markets appealing to try and capture the third world who doesn't understand what they're going to be doing the next day because they don't think that far ahead.
I mean, hell, at this point, why not just put Subway Surfers or Family Guy clips on the broadcast if
Family Guy 40 minute Subway Surfers clips.
So concerned about chasing fickle engagement? I happen to know for a fact that you don't need a bunch of vapid gimmicks to make people care about this sport. I know this because I've eaten a bunch of vapid gimmicks.
Make Britain great again. My man! I'm looking at the guy in the red hat. My man!
To make people care about this sport. I know this because I've single-handedly made millions of people tune in to stories about NASCAR, many of whom had never seen a single race before. And for as tempting as it may be to personally take credit for this, I'll confess that I am simply the messenger, relaying to the rest of the world what was already set in stone long ago. There is no magic spell I'm putting on people to force them to care. This sport, for all of its problems, really is that interesting.
Yes.
When you take it seriously, the grit, drama, and intensity are unmatched by anything else. For too long, the people running the show have lost sight of this, and now, a new generation of Americans are discovering their love of racing through another sport. Formula One is now routinely beating NASCAR in the young demographics that our league is so desperate to impress. They didn't achieve this by stuffing their series full of contrived theatrics. They made larger-than-life stars by simply letting the best drivers go out and dominate. Most seasons end in blowouts. Most races end in blowouts. But for some reason,
I know I talked a lot of shit about Formula One, and it's mainly my complaint is off-track stuff and extra media stuff. Formula One's races are still really good. IndyCar races are still really good. Because the races are races. If you're a Formula One fan, or you're an IndyCar fan, you watch the race, and you just gotta ignore all the other shit around it. Maybe it's outside the engineering of the car. That's all I do. For the V8 Supercar too. Or Rally. I'm here for the engineering. I'm here for the races. Every other little concept, hype reels, all this other shit, I don't think about. I don't touch. I go and watch other stuff, or I go listen to other stuff. I do things. That's how people are.
Attention spans no longer seem to apply. People tune in. This past season saw one of the greatest championship battles in history. They didn't need point resets or multiple rounds or eliminations.
No!
It was just good old-fashioned racing. The solution is clear, and sooner or later, NASCAR may be forced to change their ways.
I remember 20 of us drivers went about, 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, and sat with NASCAR and said, these are the things that we think will help make the sport better. And a person in NASCAR that I won't name sat there and looked me square in the eye and said that everything that we were talking about and what I was saying was 180 degrees backwards. And that's kind of when I was like, we're in bad shape. We're in trouble.
Way back in the summer of 1969, a rift formed between NASCAR and its race teams that was
here for the racism. And I'm a true racist.
Really mended. More than half a century later, these tensions finally reached a boiling point. In 2024, team owners Bob Jenkins, Denny Hamlin, and some guy named Michael Jordan filed an antitrust lawsuit against the sanctioning body. The subsequent trial, which took place in December 2025, made Jim France and his lackeys look completely inept.
When the fuck did MJ get into racing?
The case against NASCAR mounted higher and higher. Their position soon became untenable, and they caved. Denny Hamlin, who just 1 month earlier was humiliated by the playoff format, ended up getting the last laugh. NASCAR was forced to settle with the teams, giving them pretty much everything they wanted. For the first time ever, there was a crack in the armor of the France family dictatorship.
Some guy?
In the fallout of the lawsuit, the relationship between the sanctioning body and the teams has been strained to its absolute limit. The trial process ended up leaking private messages from NASCAR's top executives that shocked and appalled the rest of the sport. The most troubling comment came from Commissioner Steve Phelps, who called Richard
I agree with you. Did you give some of them some sense of how bad things are out there? Childress needs to be taken out back and flogged. He's a stupid redneck who owes his entire fortune to NASCAR. When Kirsha talks about corporations shitting on white people, white men in particular, I know it's funny to say with Steve Phelps being white, but we know who he really works for. And you don't hear about this in big news about them calling them racial slurs and degrading one of the biggest dynasties of your sport. This is painful. And she's right, because white men in a lot of sports will build empires for others to come and join into. And then they are flogged themselves for doing it. And not just sports, but in the world too. Why would I listen to white trash e-girls? Yeah, why would I listen to white trash e-girls? Why would I listen to goddamn street monkeys? Why would I listen to yellow trash not paying their fucking phone bills? Is how it sounds? Yeah, goddamn. Ugh. Yeah. You sure cast a lot of stones, don't you, Mr. Phelps?
Childress, a stupid
Your
redneck
glass
that owed
tower.
his entire
Yeah, that's
fortune
true.
to what NASCAR
Yeah, that's true.
provided him. Not long after the trial,
You said not me,
was forced to
Grizz.
resign. This whole ordeal burnt a lot of bridges along the way, but perhaps out of the ashes, a new NASCAR can emerge. One where the folks in charge are more accountable to the teams and the fans.
What a day in Daytona.
one of the greatest athletes of all time, gets to come to Victory Lane and hoist one of the greatest trophies of all time.
Chumba Casino. What the fuck is Chumba Casino? I gotta look that up, but MJ in the... MJ. Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino is a social casino platform operated by VGW, offering games like slots and table games through its main site, aka Chumba Lite. Mobile apps available on the Google Play Store and Apple Play Store. Apple App Store. The company's headquartered in Frankfurt, Germany at Heiligkreuz Gasse 11603. Okay. Though it operates globally with its localized Swedish version of Chumba Casino SC, using access reviews and customer services. It's an online casino. Hey ya hoya Chumba. Well, it's actually a German-owned casino. It's not even Hey ya hoya Casino.
Victory Lane and hoist one of the greatest trophies of all time.
I don't know what the future holds for stock car racing.
This is wild.
I can't say whether people will like the new format or how much longer the Frances are going to be running the show. I am confident, however, that throughout all of this, Austin Dillon has probably been smiling, unbothered and unafraid. He'll most likely race for a few more seasons and then eventually take over the family business, which in recent years could use a bit of a tune-up. And who knows, maybe the Childress racing lineage will continue one day.
You go ahead, Space Cowboy.
But for now, Austin Dillon remains as a polarizing figure, loved by some and ridiculed by others. The debate rages on over whether he truly earned the spot he was given.
Okay, maybe actually put him on the track and have him get run over. Fucking hell, don't ever do that again.
The way I see it, if he walks away from the sport today, he would do so with 6 Cup Series victories to his name. That puts him well within the 100 best drivers to ever suit up at NASCAR's highest level.
Okay.
Did he match the legacy of the Intimidator? Obviously not, but he managed to carry on the number 3 in his own unique way. Like it or not, it's hard to imagine this crazy modern era of NASCAR without Austin Dillon stealing a win when you least expect it. Maybe it's finally time to give him the respect he deserves. After all, I believe that he has an awful lot to teach us.
I do hope so.
The wind that extinguishes a candle's flame can also fuel a blazing inferno. Several years after predicting the worst financial crisis of our lifetimes, Nassim Taleb would publish Anti-Fragile, a revolutionary new theory about things that get stronger with chaos. This mysterious property can apply to just about everything, from the most complex systems to the simplest life forms. It can even apply to race car drivers. Life as we know it is getting more chaotic. With each passing day, it's becoming harder and harder to predict the future. Modern institutions believe that they can dodge chaotic events. They spend billions on fancy models which attempt to foresee the unforeseeable. But in an age of disorder, all this prognosticating is ultimately futile. No one knows what surprises are waiting for us down the road, just like how no one knows if it's gonna rain during the next race at Daytona. Chaos can only ruin people who are foolish enough to believe it won't affect them. To survive chaos, you must learn to expect it. You don't have to predict it. You don't even have to fully understand it. You just need to acknowledge it as an inevitability.
Become one with it.
Only then will it start working in your favor. So the next time the world around you begins slipping into pandemonium, it would be wise to follow the black swan.
Beautiful. Thank you, EmpLemon. Man. What a video to return to. Absolutely just art. And I should apologize greatly to Tim Dillon for the beginning, because my fuzzy memory went back to the Dale Earnhardt video about the number 3 being handed down, but this is a whole new perspective. Because that video was made back, EmpLemon made that Dale Earnhardt video back in, I believe, 2018. Nearly 8 years have gone by. I think I owe him an apology. I owe Tim Dillon an apology for this. Wow. Make sure to like and subscribe to EmpLemon for any more of his videos about NASCAR, because honestly, Emp, I think, and comparing to, not saying other videos, I mean, your poker videos are still one of my favorite ones, but the most solid videos you've made have been about NASCAR. I'd say keep to that format, because this is nice. Or more sports as a whole. We need more sport YouTubers that aren't just making schlock and drivel. I appreciate it.